Made it a lot more comfortable with another runaway try. But just as Para fans thought it was all over, Alexander pulled on old legs and polished skill to again reduce the lead to 4.
He pulled it to her, and he gets his pass away to Darren Brown and flips it over the top to Ryan Girdler.
The result wasn't sealed until the last minutes. Beckett couldn't control the ball, Tchaikovsky could. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Brisbane has lived up to its star billing with a clear-cut win over Manly at ANZ Stadium. The Broncos won 22-6, while Sea Eagles' Jeff Tuvey and John Hapawati will appear before the judiciary charged with dissent.
A night of great expectation, 39,000 fans and former foes together. But soon after the outset, Jeff Tuvey was losing a running battle with referee Bill Harrigan.
Now he's in the sin bin. Oh, well.
Under the weight of possession from Harrigan's 17-6 penalty count, Brisbane crossed for 3 tries.
Inside the 20, Tellers is there. Tellers looks inside. The Pearl is there. Grinoff is there. He gets the pass. Silver puts it over the line.
The Sea Eagles' night only got worse when Tuvey and John Hapawati were dismissed for dissent just on full time.
He sent the captain off as well.
If I was captain of Manly, I would have done what Jeff Tuvey did. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not sure what Jeff said, but what I am saying, he's entitled to approach the referee. The players, with this particular referee, can't win.
Across the Tasman, Souths and Auckland opened league's new order.
That's a full stop.
Gene Namu solved the defence on a wide ball before sneaking through to break a 12-all deadlock. Souths then bounced back with tries by Tim Brasher and Terry Hermanson to finish off the fading Warriors.
Tough to come back from here.
Rainy conditions at the Adelaide Oval, where North Queensland found soft sections in Adelaide's defence. Much-travelled veteran Dale Shearer made the most of charitable Rams tackling to score a solo try in the Cowboys' 18-8 triumph.
82-year-old veteran, he's got too much pace for them.
Charles Christian, National 9 News.
New South Wales defence in style today, beating North Sydney at Bear Park. In other games, St George had a late burst to beat West. Canterbury upset Canberra, while the Knights came from behind to win 18-14.
Eager to avenge their loss to Newcastle in last year's semis, the oldest bear on the park got North Sydney rolling. Harrigan emerged from a scrum with a cut eye and determined to find the culprit.
He's not happy about it, the big man.
Then, just before the break, Shields gave Matthew Johns the perfect pass to cut the lead to 2.
Here's a good ball by Shields. Newcastle are targeting for the corner. Matthew Johns.
The Bears led 8-6 at the break, but Newcastle then piled on the points. The Knights jumped to an 18-8 advantage before Norths clicked again. Close to full time, the Bears could have levelled the scores, but fell at the post.
Oh, they have bombed it.
Canterbury was given little chance in its first home game, but Canberra went home well beaten.
Canterbury has scored the first try.
Hetherington played his heart out, and Glenn Hughes helped the Doggies to a 10-point lead.
What about that for a try?
The Raiders hit back with 2 late tries that should have been 3. Again, the ball went down with the line wide open.
Can you believe that?
Late in the game, Gillies went on report for this high tackle. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
At Cogra Oval, St George kicked off the season with 6 tries to beat Wests in a sometimes fiery encounter.
Anthony Mundine was eager to shine in his return to Cogra, but another new signing made an excellent first impression. Matthew Rodwell worked a 1-2 with Jamie Ainscoe for St George's opening try. West laid on a sweeping move for Brett Hodgson to finish and locked the scores 10-all.
Hodgson!
A flare-up late in the match saw 3 players sin bin, and the Dragons used the extra man to advantage to clinch victory. Last night, Illawarra began with plenty of conviction against Premiership newcomer Melbourne. The Steelers led 12-0 before Melbourne replied through Scott Hill.
Yes, he has.
Rainy conditions preceded a late storm strike, Hill crossing for the winning try, making Melbourne the first since Cronulla 31 years ago to win its first away game on debut.
They've worked very well and very hard for some 3 or 4 months now, and this is the rewards for that effort, and they're not about to stop here. They're hungry now. They want to win more games. So.
Sydney City was ultra impressive at Shark Park, brushing aside Cronulla after just 34 seconds for the first of 6 tries.
Scored their first try.
The Roosters were rampant. Richard Barnett delivering a personal postcard from Bondi in a slalom run through former Shark teammates.
Oh, what a try!
Cronulla crossed twice to come within 10 points before Brad Fittler scored 2 tries to help Sydney City close out a 22-point victory. Balmain kicked off its campaign in sparkling style, running in 7 tries against Gold Coast. There was a midfield sideshow in the second half, but the Tigers never lost control of this one, winning 40-6. After the completed first round, the winners on the left start the season smiling. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
And in their first home game, Penrith has beaten Canberra in a cliffhanger. The result was in doubt until the end, with the Panthers winning 28-24.
The heat and defence at the foot of the mountain were brutal.
What a hit!
Unable to stop the offloads, Penrith opened up in the 17th minute.
Better ball on the outside.
Quick thinking and quick hands saw Pearson run around for Canberra's second try. If that looked good, Penrith's response was beautiful. Finished with Girdler backing his speed right to the line.
On the inside, this is Girdler.
At 10-8, Penrith was back in the game, but with only seconds remaining before the break, Stewart engineered another Raiders try.
There, the Raiders come up with a try.
The second half was a game of halves in itself. Penrith dominated the first 20 minutes to lead 24-16.
Domic gets to the try line.
Then came the change. Canberra got on a roll, and Daly showed his class to level the score.
Has he got the speed? Slips it to Boyle.
2 late penalties sealed the result. Penrith 4-point winners, and the locals loved it. Last night, North Sydney upset Tipsters, and Sydney City with a hard-fought win at the football stadium.
Maddie Singh has done an unbelievable job.
North scored the first try when prop Gary Larson, for a moment, thought he was a back.
Larson's going to make it. Larson's put it over the stripe.
It set up a great second-half collision. And when Taylor kicked a penalty from halfway, the Bears were 8 in front.
That's a magnificent kick and goal.
Cleary reduced North's lead to 2, but that was as close as the Roosters got. Beaten at home by Newcastle last week, former Knight Adam Muir helped Norths turn it around with an 18-point win. Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Used some hard-fought and unexpected results. New Boys Melbourne beat Wests, Illawarra down souths, Brisbane got the better of Canterbury, Manly too strong for Adelaide, and Cronulla defeated St George.
They promised to tear each other apart, and the local derby certainly ignited old rivalries.
I reckon that'll be looked at.
The first points went to the Sharks, Green's pass finding the fullback.
Chance, they'll put it over the line.
Self-preservation didn't get a run. Cronulla ahead 6-4 at the break.
Roger.
2 more tries to the Sharks, and at 20-4 the game looked over.
How good is that?
But the Dragons didn't quit, the match going right to the wire.
Daniel Wagon last time.
Brisbane received a good old-fashioned welcome to Belmore.
He runs into a big wall of defence.
The first try was courtesy of the Broncos' flashy backs. But Hamono needed no one's help to give Canterbury a hard-fought lead.
He's across the line, can he get it down?
Renouf left his mark on the second half. It started with a try to Tallis and finished with one for himself in the 2012 victory.
Renouf! Steve Renouf has done it!
At the football stadium, Souths had one of those days, and Illawarra made up for last week's shock loss at home.
Mackay must score!
Steelers led 16-0 before the Rabbitohs fought back to trail by 2. But Illawarra had been on top for most of the match, and that's where they finished.
McGregor splits them wide open.
And while West problems continue, Melbourne couldn't be happier. The Storm ran in 5 tries to 2, making it successive victories for the Southerners. Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Manly put aside a week of turmoil to come out and score 4 tries to 1 in their home game against Adelaide.
Adelaide's first visit to Brookvale and 200 first-grade games for Kerrod Walters, who had a try disallowed in the opening minutes. Jeff Tuvey initiated Manly's first try for Terry Hill. The Sea Eagles increased the lead with a trademark setup from Cliff Lyons.
Phillips is over!
Much-travelled Jamie Olgenick scored his first try since returning to Brookvale before Craig Field orchestrated Hill's saloon passage for a second try. A homecoming wave for the Premiers last night when 23,000 expected Newcastle to maintain its unbeaten record against Auckland. After Sean Hoppy fell over the line in the 5th minute, Newcastle replied through Matthew Gidley.
Newcastle will score.
After the break, the Knights put the Warriors to the sword, crossing for another 5 tries to win handsomely.
Oh, that is absolute champagne rugby league.
Shane Werrett crossed twice for Parramatta against Gold Coast at Carrara, before Stuart Kelly capped off a fine attacking move to put the Eels ahead 14-6 after half-time.
That is a great try scored by Stuart Kelly.
The referee needed help to confirm Andrew King's try for the Chargers.
Oh, hello! It's an each-way bet.
Following the confusion, the try was ultimately awarded, but the Eels squeaked home by 2. Balmain came back to earth with a thud in Townsville. North Queensland's Ray Mercy produced a game he won't forget, scoring 4 tries.
He's there!
After leading 8-2 at half-time, the Cowboys crossed 5 times to swamp the Tigers in style. After 2 rounds, North Queensland and Melbourne are among the unbeaten leaders, Canberra and Auckland among those still to taste victory. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
New Premiers Newcastle continue to rack up wins, beating Illawarra at home today. The Knights scored 6 tries to 3 to remain unbeaten after 3 games in the new competition.
In the Battle of the Steel Cities, Illawarra showed early mettle.
Trent Barrett the try!
The Premiers started badly before some spectacular Newcastle action. The Knights ran in 3 first-half tries, with O'Davis a contender for the biggest lair of the year.
And what a way to score it!
The ref wasn't so sure.
Can you see if he got that down?
The replay showed no problems. Not so for Illawarra. Tries to Andrew Johns, Peden and Pinchinelli blew out the scoreline and sunk the Steelers.
And Johns is going to get a great try.
On a night of upsets, Balmain had waited 7 years to beat Manly at Leichhardt Oval.
Duckworth gets it over the line.
That after less than 3 minutes. Then Webber showed you can't beat a good stretch.
Balmain have put it down in an identical position to their first try.
It took Manly until midway through the second half to get on the board, but with 15,000 supporters in tow, Balmain again lifted.
And they had to win this one tonight.
Auckland was in the same situation against Sydney City. The Roosters led 8-0, but the Warriors were in a hungry mood. It was Sydney City's second loss and Auckland's first win in another boil-over. Canterbury was always in front of Adelaide until the last 5 minutes. Like Balmain and Auckland, the Rams had been disappointing, but this had been a night for all the home teams, and Adelaide didn't miss the party. Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
The AFLC's now joined the winners list of the National Rugby League competition. In other results today, Norths beat St George, North Queensland upset Parramatta. Canberra also won its first game, while the Magpies scored 7 tries to 1 against Souths.
As expected, Souths threw everything at an out-of-form West.
A stampeding running.
Poor ball control snuffed out many raids, but Rainey made the most of his first-grade debut.
Rainey gets it across the line.
More chances went begging than converted, but in front of their home crowd, West went to the break 14-0 leaders.
He's put his foot down. Targets for the corner.
An 80-metre effort from Hodgson then put West well out of South's reach. Winless after 2 rounds, the Magpies have now moved up the pecking order.
No impression. Hodgson scores the...
Norths didn't mess around with St George, cracking the defence just after kick-off. But then came the Dragons' double act. A bomb from Brown resulted in Wagon scoring. 6 minutes later, the Bears were trapped again.
He's got the ball down.
Bad miss on Florimo allowed Norths to level straight after the break. The Bears then grabbed the 2 points when Horder broke the deadlock.
Chance in the corner, yes! Horder!
Parramatta led 14-0 against North Queensland before Hene's success under the high ball allowed the Cowboys to tie up the scores.
That's going to be a North Queensland try.
A high shot from Doonerman reduced North Queensland to 12 as both teams traded field goals in the dying minutes.
Now Smith goes for the field goal from almost right.
Ferris landing 2 for the Cowboys' 1-point win. Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
And Melbourne continues to defy the critics. Last night, the Storm beat Cronulla at Shark Park.
Few could believe Melbourne could make such an early impact in its maiden year. The Storm struck twice in the first half, Scott Hill with the no give and go.
Try number 2 for Melbourne.
Matt Rogers scored from a planned move to cut the deficit just before half-time.
And Rogers crosses.
After the break, the Sharks' net was ripped open again.
Straight ahead. What a step. Russell Borden.
2 tries from dummy half late in the match sealed an 8-point win. Melbourne now unbeaten after 3 away games.
Wayne has gone over!
Yeah, after this win and the 2 previous, I mean, they've got to realise that we are a fair dinkum football side, and I must say that they really don't have any excuse now not to come and see us.
Penrith made the early running against Brisbane before the Broncos replied to lead 16-12. In his 150th first-grade game, Steve Renouf had a big night out, bagging 4 tries for Brisbane. Penrith pounced to within 4 points.
Greg Alexander going for...
Then Peter Jorgensen narrowly missed causing a boil-over.
It looked like it was a pretty clear knock-on.
Before John Plath sealed it at the other end.
Johnny Platt sees a half gap, getting through it, Platt going for the line and then scores the try.
North Queensland and Melbourne among 4 teams unbeaten after 3 rounds. Winless Gold Coast props up the ladder. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Beatons. They continued to defy the odds and came up with a big win over North Sydney in their first ever home game. The Roosters, well, they paid a hefty price for their win over Illawarra. Jason Lowry will be out for a couple of months with a broken arm, while Parramatta were convincing winners over Manly at Brookvale Oval.
The 14,000-strong Brookvale crowd didn't have to wait long for their side's first try, a Luke Phillips dummy giving Menzies a clear passage after just 4 minutes. But it didn't take long for the Eels to bounce back, David Penner beating a host of Manly players to a clever John Simon kick.
The chase is on, Parramatta will score! The Eels have gone in with David Penner.
6-all after 10 minutes, and suddenly Manly realised they were in for a tough night. Stuart Kelly, just one of countless heroes for Parramatta, refusing to let the Eagles through. 10 minutes before the break, Parramatta prop Nathan Kalis was stretchered off with a neck injury, and while he was examined on the sideline, Shane Werrett put the Eels in front.
Smith with a cross kick. That came off a Manly player. This could be a try for Werrett.
After half-time, Parramatta stepped up a gear, and their enthusiasm caught the Eagles by surprise. 11 sets of hands involved in this move, eventually finished by Kelly.
Puts it into no man's land. Beautifully picked up by Kelly. Kelly's over the line. You won't see too much better than that.
Midway through the second period, play was stopped for almost an hour, while Kalis was airlifted to hospital with a suspected broken neck. X-rays later found there was no fracture. When play resumed, Jason Smith found more holes in the Manly line, this one of 2 tries for Smith, guiding the Eels to a 24-point win.
Ovation at Olympic Park.
They need not have worried. Within a minute, an impressively spontaneous United chant rose from the stands. The cheering and booing came in all the right places. It soon became obvious most fans did not need the announcers' helpful explanations of the rules. Unfortunately, North Sydney had reminded everyone there was another side on the field with early points. But there wasn't anything too complicated about the Storm's first try, exploiting a lapse from the Bears' forwards. Storm soon displayed a poise and toughness, defying its tender age. And a simple break by Scott Hill was enough to break the Bears' brittle defence.
Scott Hill will reach out and score! The Bears have been caught napping again!
Norths seemed shell-shocked. Storm's quick play the balls and seemingly relentless attacks just made the luck fall their way.
A chance for Boy, play on, says Manda. Boy is going to score! He's going to go to the video referee, but the Storm are on the rampage!
In the 27th minute, though, the North's backline finally clicked and pounced on a rare opportunity.
He's inside, they've replied.
Storm headed Norths by 18-10 at half-time. Early in the second half, Bears prop Josh Stewart felt the rugged side of Marcus Bai. And then Storm demonstrated the flair that finished off their force.
Too easy!
Norths ignored the script and scored seconds before the final siren. But the inaugural victory lap capped off a dream scenario that surprised even experienced Storm captain Glenn Lazarus.
Well, I played in the State of Origin here in 1990, and it was certainly way up there with that. In fact, it was probably better for the Melbourne side because we had it. In 1990, it was probably split down the middle, but here I dare say 90% of the crowd were going for up, and it was wonderful.
Those in Sydney must just wonder how we continue to do it down here in Victoria.
just the first taste of interstate cockiness, at least as long as Melbourne keeps winning.
The game's produced a fiery first half.
Richardson takes on Rodwell. Rodwell makes the tackle.
But it's been the Sharks' bustling attack that's seen the first points registered.
Set play for Eddinghausen and Matt Rogers. It's no long.
The 6-point margin stirred the Rabbitohs into determined action. Harry Hermanson leading from the front.
Hermanson, one of the best of the year so far.
With a penalty to make the margin 4, the Rabbitohs have suffered a setback with the loss of David Hall.
Yeah, he's in a lot of pain down here. It doesn't look good.
Cronulla maintained the attack, but great defence contained them. Souths on the attack have been awesome, but simple mistakes plagued their game.
Mistake that will cost South's victory.
The Rabbitohs returned to the paddock after the break in a more determined mood than Cronulla, with Julian O'Neill outstanding. But it's all been for naught. Cronulla hanging on in a scoreless second half.
We knew they'd come out firing this week after a indifferent performance against Western Suburbs, but West can do that to you, and we knew that South had gone to Auckland and beaten them, and we knew we were in for a hard game, and that's what they gave us.
It was just one of those unfortunate things this week that we couldn't get the ball across the line. We had ample opportunities, but couldn't convert it into points.
Terry Galloway, Sky News.
And Newcastle's unbeaten run continues. The Knights too strong for an injury-ravaged Wests. In other results today, Balmain beat Canterbury, Penrith easy winners over Adelaide, Brisbane down the Gold Coast, and Newcastle got away at the end.
Injuries had weakened West before the game, and within 10 minutes the Magpies lost leads, and then Scandalis with a suspected broken ankle.
This looks real nasty.
Newcastle scored first through Gidley. George Arliss then replied with a body full of determination.
George Arliss, he's over!
When Ken McGuinness turned defence into attack, West looked certain of another try, but Moody gave chase and mowed down his man.
2 metres in front, pulled down a metre from the line.
West never stopped trying. Newcastle relieved to get the points, with the score only blowing out in the last 10 minutes.
Long pass, Craigy's over.
The bomb worked well for Balmain against Canterbury. Both the Tigers' first half tries came off kicks.
Gillette picks it up. Could be a try. Here it is.
The Bulldogs attacked at ground level, with McRae timing his pass perfectly. Once again, Gillette guided the Tigers all day and finished with the try that sealed the game. At home, Penrith proved far too good for Adelaide, the Panthers crossing for 5 tries to 0 in a first half blitz. It didn't let up after the break. The Rams fleeced in a one-sided contest. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Brisbane remains unbeaten after proving too classy in an 8-try romp against last-place Gold Coast.
The big guns from Brisbane blazed away early. Alan Langer and Steve Renoff featured in 3 of the first 4 tries.
Langer picks up try.
Wes Patton offloaded to Graham Mackay, helping Gold Coast stay within 8 points at half-time.
He walks straight through Darren Lockyer.
Peter Ryan was put on report for this, as the Broncos went on an 8-try rampage. The Chargers provided value moments, chipping in with 4 of their own.
Can he get there? Yeah.
Last night, Auckland stung St George with 2 early tries by Nigel Wagner, before the Dragons fired back. Anthony Mundine starring in 2 tries, before deft work from Nathan Blacklock helped Mark Coyne over.
That's absolute sleight of hand from Nathan Blacklock.
Blacklock then stole the ball to put St George ahead. Teo Rapati barred through to push the Warriors in front. The winning try by Coyne, not without some doubt.
I'm not quite sure.
2 tries sprung Canberra to a 10-2 lead over North Queensland in front of 20,000 in Townsville. But minutes into the second half, Jason Ferris was tackled illegally by Graham Appo, putting the Cowboy on the cart and leaving referee Clark in little doubt.
It's a very high tackle, you're gone.
The referee threatened more dismissals.
I will order you from the field and you won't be back, right?
North Queensland used the extra man to advantage with 2 tries, the clincher from former Raider Noah Nandruku. John Doyle's conversion preserves the Cowboys' unbeaten record. After 4 rounds, 4 clubs remain undefeated. Gold Coast still waiting to taste success. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Applause for Sydney City this season has been scattered, but tonight as the rain came down, the Roosters fans found reason to clap like thunder.
Inside ball, Justin Dooley. Dooley gets there himself.
2 first-half tries, both after mistakes by West.
Land. Runners everywhere. Gaffey must score, he does. Lead by 10 points.
Battling against the Roosters' unbreakable defence, the Magpies resorted to kicks. This their best chance of the half.
It's a good kick. Walker doesn't ground the ball. The Magpies don't come up with a try.
But a change of luck after the break.
He kicks for a Siri Lang. A Siri Lang will get there.
12-4. The chances, though, of a Magpie comeback were slammed by a solo.
Using the step, using his strength. Look at him go! Brad Fittler gets the try.
In the closing minutes, the Roosters' defence remained relentless.
McMenemy driven back in the tackle.
And the attack was rewarded one final time. Nathan Wood rounding off a 22-4 win.
Nathan Wood accelerates. Nathan Wood for the corner. He'll get there.
Despite watching all those tries, defence was the difference. The Magpies missed 36 tackles to the Roosters' 16. It's Sydney City's 3rd win for the year. The Magpies have just 1.
Yeah, just before half-time, they had quite a few sets at us on our line, and I know the coach is very happy with the defence at half-time, and I think it, subdued their enthusiasm a bit. I think if we had let them score just before half-time, then, it could have made it a bit more difficult in the second half.
The injuries are just starting to take their toll, but great effort by the guys. I think, like you said before, the turning point was when they held us out for all those sets. We were holding them out and they were holding us out. And the luck of the draw, they scored towards the end, and that helped them win the game.
In tonight's other game, the Adelaide Rams gave the Gold Coast its 1st win of the year. Constant dropping of the ball plagued the home side all night. The Gold Coast scoring 3 tries to 1.
He's got space, nobody in front of him. Wes Patton all the way to the line, being chased down by Wayne Simons.
It's not just the loss. The Rams have been fleeced by injuries, including a broken right ankle for playmaker Craig Camorley. The Chargers led 12-8 at the break and stretched that lead in the second half. The Rams have only 1 win for the year. Now that's 1 for the Gold Coast.
With 5 straight for the Knights, while Melbourne's unbeaten run came to an end at the hands of Auckland.
Melbourne crossed the Tasman with an unbeaten record and looked good early to continue that. Too much rain, will not be stopped. Auckland spent much of the first half defending before Jones found space and Sean Hoppy finished off.
Offside unless he gets it down.
The tide was turning, and again Jones was the key. This solo effort putting the Warriors up by 4 at the break. Melbourne needed to score first after the restart. Instead, it was that man Jones again, brilliantly finding Tatupu.
Stacey Jones back tonight.
Nick Howe breathed life back into the game, offloading for Bell to take the Storm within 4.
Nick Howe's done it for Bell.
But Auckland managed to hold the fast-finishing Melbourne out for a morale-raising win. Newcastle were also undefeated coming into round 5. They hosted Cronulla, who struggled with injury but were fit enough to open the scoring.
The 5/8 is in for Cronulla.
That hurt the Knights, but not as much as this did. Soon David Peachey was feeling sick. Too casual on this clean-up, McDougall scoring.
David, what's wrong?
No luck in this one, though. Newcastle's backs combining for a class winger's try.
Then over the line goes Moody.
The blows kept on coming.
It's the biggest brick wall you'll ever see.
And right on the half-time bell, another magician's try to take the Knights into the break, up by 8. Brady, the scorer.
Brady scores.
The Knights good enough to play out the second half on autopilot, cruising home by 14 and confirming themselves genuine title contenders. Mark Barland for Nightline.
On its 3rd consecutive game for the first time in more than 2 years, the Tigers beat Penrith 30 points to 10, scoring 5 tries to 1.
When Balmain went the blind side, Penrith supporters couldn't believe their eyes. The Tigers had a tank full of enthusiasm as Stimpson felled his opponents.
What a tackle!
Sirinen did it his way. And Rudd got everyone's sympathy when his knee collapsed. In the second half, Brown went on report for trying to blunt Gillette. Worked for a little while. The Tigers 5/8 eventually sent Milford away for his 3rd as Balmain finished worthy winners. Last night, Cronulla took it to Newcastle for the first 20 minutes, with Dykes finishing off a spectacular backline raid.
The 5/8 is in for Cronulla.
But from there, the Sharks were buried. Peachy's misjudgment allowed McDougall to swoop.
Oh, this is close!
Oh, that's a try.
Just before the break, Lang tried to smash his way through. Harrigan went on report as Cronulla searched for cracks in a blue and red wall.
Newcastle are really building Cronulla now.
In the second half, the Sharks complained a Newcastle trainer got in the way. Made little difference. The Knights had been in a mean mood.
It was a jolt, wasn't it?
And Auckland ended Melbourne's unbeaten run. It was tight throughout, with the Warriors scoring 3 tries to 2 in their 4-point victory.
Stacey Jones back tonight.
Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Two-Mashin, Canberra and Manly turned on a thriller, and Brisbane managed a record score against North Queensland. The Broncos won 58 points to 4, while the Raiders staged a remarkable comeback to get up near full time.
Manly hasn't had much luck this year, but the early signs were favourable today. Hopewati got the perfect bounce, then Phillips the perfect pass.
What a pass!
Down 20-2, Canberra mounted its fight back. The Raiders reduced the lead to 8 by half-time, and then with just minutes remaining, the scores were level. Against the run of play, Canberra completed a remarkable turnaround.
Clear the tarmac! Here he comes!
Brisbane had its game wrapped up by half-time with one of the smallest playing the biggest role.
Yes, he will!
In the first 40 minutes, Lang across for 3 tries, then set up another. 36-0 at half-time, eventually blowing out to a record score for the Broncos.
Using his strength, and now he uses the speed. Sailor!
If the warm-up at Parramatta Stadium looked good last night, the main event also brought a roar.
Welcome back, Jarrett.
Dean Pay had a memorable captain's game in 80 minutes of action. Only 2 points separated the sides at half-time, with a runaway Himono giving Canterbury the edge. As former teammates kept up the barrage, Parramatta got on top. And any hope of a fight back gone when Gillies was sent off with 8 minutes to go.
Wow, pop that.
The Eels didn't waste the advantage, finishing with 4 tries to 2. And St George took the tough route against Illawarra. Pearson knew the right way as the Dragons went to a 10-6 lead. The Steelers weren't disgraced, St George home by 7. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Has been completed with Norths big winners over Souths. In their Easter Monday anniversary match, the Bears thrashed Souths 42-8.
These two clubs helped launch rugby league 90 years ago, and North's first try came from the oldest trick in the book. Close to their line, the Rabbitohs' defence was always vulnerable. Butner scored North's second, then Roy finished off a great team effort.
This is Billy Moore. Morrison over the top. Champagne Rugby League. And this is a wonderful try.
Brasher made sure Souths were next to score. The Rabbitohs captain tried everything to lift his side before the break.
Find some space down the blind side.
South started the second half like they finished the first, but little was going right for these Easter Bunnies.
No one there.
Brasher was placed on report for this hit on Icon. Then, in a record 278th game for the club, Florimo sealed another Norths victory. The Bears crossed for a total of 7 tries to 1, with the biggest cheer saved for Florimo after his first kick at goal since the under-14s.
They gave him the opportunity.
After 5 rounds, Brisbane and Newcastle remained the only undefeated teams. Balmain, Parramatta and Norths helped make up the top 10. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Competition is proving a tipster's nightmare, with another major upset today, Canberra going down narrowly to Illawarra. But the Steelers' captain Paul McGregor has jeopardised his test chances, placed on report for a high tackle in his team's 22 points to 20 win.
Mistakes are never good, but one on your own line is a real head hanger. Illawarra didn't waste the chance. Canberra's defence couldn't hold.
Timmins gets across the line.
The Raiders hit back when McFadden chipped through. And McGregor lost his head as he collected another.
And that is certainly high.
Illawarra looked comfortable after leading 22-8. But 2 tries in 2 minutes saw Canberra set up a thrilling finish.
They score the try from nothing.
The Steelers had never beaten Canberra at Bruce Stadium, Their first win was hard-earned. Last night, a clash of maroon forced the Broncos to wear their away strip. And just 3 minutes in, Manly showed its true colours.
For Wendell Sailors, yellow in goal area, Manly's Hopewadi.
Repeated infringements from Brisbane in the play the ball brought this warning.
If I got to kick him in penalties, I run out of patience.
Tallis wasn't listening. During his 10 minutes in the sin bin, Manly crossed twice.
Field then for Terry Hill. Terry Hill's over.
It was a night Tallis won't forget. Sent off in the second half for a high tackle.
Well, I think he's been hard done by. Yeah, I've got grave reservations.
Brisbane's unbeaten run ended with Manly's 6 tries to 1 thrashing.
Beautiful pass from the halfback.
If that looked lopsided, Sydney City really didn't need any luck against Adelaide. The Rams weren't expected to be any opposition, and they didn't let tipsters down. The Roosters winning 50 points to 12. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
National Rugby League with Melbourne joining North Queensland at the top of the table. The Storm beat Parramatta, Norths downed Auckland, South Sydney thrashed Wests, Canterbury thumped the Gold Coast, while St George held off a strong finishing Penrith.
The Panthers thought St George's first try came from a shepherd. A few minutes later, a more telling blow for Domick.
Oh, and cops an accidental boot.
Ainscough was also causing headaches as the Dragons jumped to a 12-0 lead.
Oh, he's going to score.
Penrith finally gave the home crowd some hope. But shortly after the break, Carter had too much to say.
No more. Hey, go.
In the 10 minutes, Penrith was a man down. St George crossed twice. And despite a fight back, the Panthers didn't recover.
Ainscogh's under the post.
Melbourne's Glenn Lazarus could see the funny side of his welcome to Parramatta Stadium. The Storm's grins just got bigger as they took a 10-point lead to half-time.
There's Robbie Ross, there's a try!
But the Eels closed the gap through penalties. Then Smith sent Penner on his way. After leading for most of the game, it was Melbourne's turn to fight back. First, the Storm levelled. Bye put them in front. And Howe settled the result.
Grubbers it into the in-goal area.
And a mother's concern never wanes. When Canterbury's Solomon Hamono was hurt in this attempted tackle, help came from everywhere. But it was the Gold Coast that really needed assistance, beaten 56-10. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
At North Sydney Oval, the Bears crossed for 7 tries in a high-scoring tussle with Auckland.
North skipped away to a 12-0 lead against Auckland. The Warriors fought back through Nigel Wagner before Ben Ikin's well-timed pass gave Adam Muir a saloon ride for an 18-8 lead.
Muir scored for North Sydney!
A good captain's knock from Jason Taylor, 2 tries and 8 goals sealed a convincing victory. Souths exploded from the opening minute. The first 2 tries against West came from Julian O'Neill bombs. Before a mousetrap move caught out the Magpies and the Rabbitohs led 26-0 at half-time. The 6-try Rabbitoh romp, sweet revenge for their 3rd round thrashing. Last night, Newcastle travelled to North Queensland as the only unbeaten side left in the NRL. But the Cowboys put on a hoedown. North Queensland led 11-0 just after the break. The Knights replied through Jason Moody. North Queensland completed a major upset with Kyle Warren's 2nd try. Balmain continues to be the surprise packet. Beating Cronulla made it 4 straight wins for the first time since '92.
O'Neill will set sail and score!
As others stood toe-to-toe, Andrew Eddinghausen did the point scoring, locking up the game 10-all with a silky smooth finish. Nervous moments for Shannon Nevin in the in-goal area, but he became the match winner with a late field goal.
Straight between
the Tigers ending a 6-year drought at Shark Park only after Jeff Bell was ruled in touch when Cronulla crossed in the closing seconds. After 5 rounds, the undefeated are no more. Now among the leaders, Balmain, Melbourne and North Queensland. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Fields of World Wars I and II, Australians and New Zealanders fought side by side. Last night in Auckland, they were bitter enemies. But would a reunited Australian side be a match for the Kiwis?
And Russell Smith is the man in charge.
An early casualty for the home side was Lomax, injuring his neck in the first set of 6, X-rays later clearing him of any major damage.
This will be the penalty against
Then an infringement by New Zealand set up debutant Matt Rogers in front of the uprights.
He strikes it. It's coming around just inside the upright, Matt Rogers.
It was a war of attrition. Newcastle and Australian fullback Robbie O'Davis the next victim, leaving the field with what would be diagnosed as a torn muscle above the knee.
As we see Robbie O'Davis assisted from the park.
His opposite number, Matthew Ridge, levelled the scores.
The most prolific of the New Zealanders in Test football to score points.
Rogers, meanwhile, was having the time of his life. Cleaning up the loose ball, he was running rings around the enemy.
Ricocheting back, Rogers confidently picked it up. 6 more tackles, and then Rogers has beaten 2. He does a semicircle and then a complete one on top of it.
The following set of 6 set up the Aussies for the first try of the match. Manly's Terry Hill crossing the line.
Inside for Menzies. Menzies stands, offloads. Lockyer gets it away. TV heads for the corner. Kossoff goes in. Hill goes over and puts it over the line for Australia.
Hill made it a double soon after, on the end of a bomb that was knocked back by Rogers.
The jump, the bat down, and
the Australians leading by 10 after the conversion. The Roosters' Richie Barnett left the field with what appeared to be a dislocated finger, as Tony Iro was led from the paddock.
Tony Iro is he put the big hit on it, still suffering.
Then his brother was on the end of a chain of passes that got the Kiwis back in the game.
for Pongia. Reels out of a tackle. Robbie Paul. Kevin Iro will score. Kevin Iro has put it over the line.
At half-time, the Australians had a 6-point lead in the Battle of the Anzacs. When hostilities resumed, the Kiwis were quick to level the score. Sean Hoppy pouncing after Lockyer's mistake.
It is Henry Paul linking up with Richie Blackmore. He kicks ahead. Barnett's on his outside, and the ball comes away from the Australian fullback. It's a fair try.
The replacement fullback was in the firing line. The Kiwis showing no mercy.
Again.
Another mistake. Referees picked one up. Another one from Lockyer. High tackle around the neck from McCracken. But the ball security just wasn't there.
The home side made the most of their good fortune, leading for the first time 18-12.
Here they come again. Hermanson! Hermanson! Thunders across the line.
Australia's only try scorer, Terry Hill, was the next to fall with a knee injury on a night that would have stretched both Simpson and his donkey.
Both sides have got injuries all over the place, Sterlo.
Battered and bruised, the Kangaroos would not surrender. Replacement Steve Renouf bursting across the line.
They cut out a player, look, here in the back line, Renouf! Renouf's over! Renouf's in to score on only his 3rd touch of the night!
But it'd be the Kiwis that fired the last salvo, scoring in the dying minutes to win the Trans-Tasman War.
Kevin Iro gets number 2! Kevin Iro!
A shell-shocked Australia going down 22-16.
And tomorrow
for the Valium at a couple of venues tonight, one of them Leichhardt Oval, where both teams staged a form reversal.
Balmain were gunning for 5 in a row, and with a Comedy Caper lead-up, drew first blood.
The Tigers are in for the first try.
But in back play, there was no time for jokes.
Oh, they're into it. Where they go?
Tensions running high, Canterbury chased like greyhounds. Steve Hughes coming up trumps, the Doggies back in the hunt.
Back inside it goes to Hughes, and they're going to score.
Balmain then sent their big guns in. Front rower Shane Walker full of steam in a brilliant individual effort. But that would be the last time the Tigers would cross the Canterbury line. The Bulldogs scoring twice in the second break for a convincing 26-10 win. But not half as convincing as Sydney City's romp, the Roosters reducing North Queensland to pineapple pulp in a 34-point annihilation.
And the Roosters have replied.
The Cowboys were in the match up to their ears just after half-time when they scored to trail by just 4. But then the floodgates opened. The Roosters living up to their lethal attacking potential, running in 4-pointers at will on their way to a 50-16 win.
Scott Gourlay will stretch and score.
From up north to down south, where the city of Churches had the victory bells warming up as the Rams took a 12-0 lead to the break.
Williamson gets the try.
But they just couldn't hold off a determined Cronulla in the second term, which capitalised on the Rams' mistakes for a hard-fought 22-12 victory. Earlier today, Melbourne kept its perfect home record intact, with some Houdini-like handoffs against Penrith.
A miraculous ball to Robbie Kearns!
Robbie Ross's pass won for the scrapbook, but it was Marcus Bai who stole the man of the match honours. Stretching the Penrith defence out wide, he dished out a pretty handy pass of his own to Paul Bell.
What a try!
The Melbourne crowd continuing to lap up the new code, the Storm receiving yet another standing ovation. From up.
Looking back on the Anzac Day results, Sydney City has a share of the league lead with Melbourne after scoring 8 tries against the Cowboys. Canterbury and Balmain shared the biggest Leichhardt Oval crowd since 1985, 18,495 people. But sadly for most of them, Canterbury reversed the result at Belmore 3 weeks ago.
The last time we met, we made too many mistakes right the way through, but tonight we made too many in the first half and then very few in the second half.
I think tonight definitely our backs played, you know, as good a football as they've played this year.
You know, I was really happy tonight with our defence. I thought we tackled really well. There was quite a few, you know, we put ourselves under plenty of pressure in the first half through drop balls and mistakes, and they had, you know, numerous sets of 6 against us on our line, and we held them out for the majority of that. Walker scored towards the end of that, but on a whole, I think we defended really well.
North's premiership hopes a savage blow today, thrashing the Bears by 54 points. In other games, Illawarra upset Parramatta, St George narrowly over West, Canberra 24, Gold Coast 12. Manly overcame Souths, Newcastle too good for Auckland, while the Broncos put on an exhibition.
After a test match he'd rather forget, Lockyer was one of Brisbane's best today. Webke and Larson also put it on the line.
5-8 and then the big charge!
Lockyer scored the Broncos' first try, and Kevin Walters set up their second.
Walters back to Tallis, and another Broncos try!
Brisbane was scoring at will. In 40 minutes of football, the premiership favourites rattled up 34 points.
Here is another one!
Didn't get any easier for Norths. While the Bears got 1 try, the Broncos finished with 11.
Superb try! Lockyer!
Newcastle overcame a lack of early possession to put the Kiwis back in their place.
And Gidley with a great swivel.
Auckland had a woeful day.
Glad I'm not coaching.
As Newcastle ran in 5 first-half tries to lead 28-2 at the break.
Finally get it.
Like the Broncos, both teams had players backing up from Friday's test, but the Knights still found that extra in their 38-14 win.
Fantastic stuff.
St George ventured into Magpie territory, and the game went down to the wire.
Too much speed for McGuinness.
When Thompson was sent off in the second half, West had a clear advantage. Desperate defence from Lederhan saved the Saints in their 4-point win.
If St George win this today, they can really thank Jimmy Linehan.
And Illawarra made it 2 from 2 with an upset win against Parramatta. At 5-8, McGregor revelled in the action. It was the Steelers' first home win of the year. Keaton Fletcher, National 9 News.
At Brookvale, Manly struggle against a courageous South Sydney. The Sea Eagles scraping home 22-18.
The Rabbitohs raced to a 12-0 lead against Manly, and one keen South supporter liked what she saw. Amanda Schloss has leukemia, but a bone marrow transplant from brother and South second rower Jeremy means she's beating the disease. Watching her first game since the transplant, the view turned sour when Steve Menzies put Manly in front, but Jeremy still made his sister's day.
Schloss will go through and score.
Manly the victors, but compensation for Amanda, Jeremy winning man of the match. Canberra struggled early against Gold Coast, but despite the absence of Laurie Daly and Ricky Stewart, the young Raiders produced enough razzle-dazzle to win by 12 points. With more than 18,000 at Leichhardt Oval, Balmain's biggest home crowd in 13 years was cheering inside 4 minutes.
And Balmain, the Tigers are in for the first try.
Undefeated here since 1990, the Bulldogs fought hard. Balmain lost Darren Centre with a broken jaw, but Canterbury's Hughes clan found each other. Glenn's grubber kick setting up his brother.
Stephen Hughes looking for a double, he's going to get it.
Canterbury home by 16 points, ending Balmain's 4-match winning streak. The bounce of the ball provided no kickbacks for Sydney City's Andrew Walker against North Queensland.
Bounce, it's kicked ahead by Mercy.
Once within reach, Walker pounced on the ball for points. The Roosters ran riot in the second half, winning 50-16.
And Wood will set sail. That's another try to the Roosters.
Adelaide also got a good start against Cronulla, but failed to fight off a Sharks comeback. David Peachey's intercept capping Cronulla's 10-point win, keeping the Rams on the bottom of the table. After round 7, Brisbane, Newcastle and Melbourne share the competition lead, Canterbury completing the top 10. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
League Super Bowl on a night for buckets. A full house despite the conditions. Newcastle's all-weather supporters with the first reward.
Shields for Matthew Johns. The kick is through. Jackson is there. Jackson will claim a try.
But the Knights' lead soon slipped away. Fullback Mark Hughes, the culprit.
Crossfield and has lost the football. Here's a chance. Here is a chance for Brisbane. There is Darren Smith. The chase is Craigie. Smith gets there.
The next time, sleepy defence to blame. Brisbane masters are turning one try into a quick pair.
Lockier's on his way. Lockyer will score for Brisbane. Try number 2.
The first half trouble continued for Newcastle. Troy Fletcher went high. For captain Paul Harrigan, a rare low.
That's marvellous stuff, copybook stuff.
The Broncos up 16-6 at the break. 2 minutes into the second half, they were in again.
They fly high. It's Lockyer. Lockyer scores!
Lockyer rising above last Friday's Test match nightmare. For Newcastle, the bad dream just worsened.
By Walker, on for Lockyer. Lockyer links up with Johnny Platt, then back for Tallis. Tallis, it's all over for Brisbane.
The Broncos far the better in the wet. The Super Bowl billing just a dry old argument.
Yes, the scoreline not as close as was anticipated in tonight's blockbuster. Star of the show, Broncos fullback Darren Lockyer. He scored 18 points, 2 tries and 5 goals.
Well, it's just nice to know you can come here and do it. That, you know, they're a top football side, and that never does any harm for your confidence. So that's what we'll take out, a little bit more confidence that, you know, we can certainly stand up under a fair bit of pressure. And things that we're working on and trying to improve in our game are certainly holding us together.
You know, I'm not too disappointed with that performance, honestly. You know, what they got, we gave a lot, and they took the chances. They're a very good football side. You just can't give them anything.
True. Western Suburbs journeyed south this evening to meet equal table leaders Melbourne. Wests crossed first, but it didn't take long for the Storm to storm back. When Paul Marquette sold the dummy just before the break, Melbourne went to a half-time 30-4 lead. A simple Western Suburbs error presenting the Storm with their 7th try. Robbie Ross taking full advantage of Brett Wharton's blue. Finally, Ben Roberts used his initiative to set up Russell Bowden for Melbourne's last try. And they're up.
Auckland at the football stadium. The Roosters won 22-4, scoring 4 tries to 1.
Auckland's form in Australia is uninspiring. Just 2 wins in the last 14 games. But in the second minute, the Warriors stretched the ball wide to surprise Sydney City.
Back on the inside. Try time now.
Auckland upset the Roosters a month ago, but it didn't take too long for Adrian Lamb and Brad Fittler to expose the Warriors' fragile defence.
He got the speed. Yes, he has.
Stacks of possession gave Sydney City opportunities to base camp in the Warriors' half, and Nathan Wood made Auckland pay for a lapse in concentration.
Keep an eye on him.
Jerry Susu gave Scott Goulet a full-blooded charge before Lamb aimed for the corner, and Shane Rigon's try made it 16-4.
Good little kick. Hoppy's hand rips it down there. I think Sean Hoppy's caused that.
Auckland became frivolous and the unforced error count mounted.
Oh my God, they haven't found touch.
Causing frustration among the Warriors. And the leaky defence that has conceded 177 points in 7 games couldn't handle Luke Ricketson bustling.
Ricketson busted the line wide open.
Sydney City home with plenty to spare. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Last night saw Brisbane and Melbourne grab the premiership lead. The Broncos too classy for a lacklustre Newcastle, scoring 4 tries to 1.
On a miserable night, almost 30,000 Newcastle faithful prayed for more than the rain to stop.
Jackson is there! Jackson will claim a try!
Builders League Super Bowl, Newcastle led early in soup-like conditions, but the Broncos soon had their measure.
There is Darren Smith, the chase is Craigie! Smith gets there!
On a heavy track, Brisbane was full of mud runners. The skill levels also outstanding.
Lockier's on his way! Lockyer will score for Brisbane!
Tallis proved a real nightmare. slamming Harrigan, then continuing his domination in the second half. Both sides played down the significance of the result, but Brisbane has every right to premiership favouritism.
It's all over for Brisbane!
Canberra faces an anxious few days with the risk of being stripped of 2 premiership points. Balmain claims at one stage last night the Raiders had 14 players when Ruben Wiki went down injured but didn't leave the field. Canberra won 22-12 with the NRL still to investigate the Tigers' cry. And Melbourne continues to take opponents apart, cracking the 50-point barrier against a troubled West. Injuries have denied the Magpies a fully fit side since round 1, but few expected last night's belting. The Storm scored 9 tries to 2, winning 54 points to 16. Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
At its critics today with a big win over Manly. In other round 8 results, Parramatta beat Gold Coast, St George outplayed Souths. Canterbury defeated Adelaide, while the Bears thrashed Manly 32-8.
In his first match for the year, North's Dallas certainly looked rusty. And in the 15th minute, Hancock also made him look sluggish. Bears' back line just couldn't get going. Stopping Manly's was another problem, as Hancock crossed for his second. Penalties and a try to Roy gave Norths a much-needed lift. And when Aiken found a gap shortly after half-time, Bears were back in town. Taylor then put the result out of question. Attacking on the 5th tackle, Norths took apart the tired defence.
Taylor, the captain, will take it round right behind the posts.
In the game against Souths, St George's Lance Thompson was sent off for the 2nd successive week.
There was no doubt in my mind I'm right here.
Trindle also hung his head low, as Blacklock swooped on a chance he should never have got.
It could be a try.
St George led 18-8 after 40 minutes, and although tryless in the second half, the Dragons 12 still outplayed the Rabbitohs 13. And Hurricane Humono hit Adelaide today.
Storms his way over, doesn't he?
Out to avenge their first round loss to the Rams, Canterbury skipped to an 18-point lead. At no stage did Adelaide look a chance. There seems a little piece ahead for the struggling club. Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
At Parramatta Stadium, the Eels stay in the top 10 after running in 4 tries to defeat the Gold Coast.
In the wet, both teams were looking to break droughts. The Eels after their first win in 3 games, Gold Coast a second for the season. But like the weather, both were patchy. Parramatta's Shane Werrett providing the only 4-pointer in the first half. The Eels scoring 3 in the second for a 22-point win.
Lost by the Gold Coast. It's going to be dived on by Stuart Kelly.
Saturday night bombs are normally Cronulla's go, but North Queensland sent the ball high early, coming down for Ian Roberts in his first game back from injury. The props come back brief, knocked out by Jason Stevens.
Right on the chin.
The Cowboys lost Roberts and Andrew Doonerman in the space of 10 minutes. With Cronulla wrong-sized batteries all season, the Chargers produced first spark. Andrew King positive his try was legitimate. Replays exposing a major negative.
Oh, it looks like there's a knock on there.
Damien Driscoll's soft try put the Chargers up 12-0, and soon into the second half, Steve Parsons pounced.
For Miles to chase, back into the in goal.
Penrith's hopes were dashed when Peter Jorgensen was sent off for this high tackle. The Chargers' 14-point win, their second for the season.
The pace he has. A healthy crowd.
At Leichhardt, 18,000 watched Parramatta starve Balmain of early possession, but Shane Dunley made the most of rare touches, setting up the Tigers' first points.
And away goes Kennedy to put it over the line.
Shane Walker took a handout from Dallas Western. The legal steal completed as Jason Webber made the getaway. While the Tigers were thieves in the night, cameras captured any sleight of hand from the Eels. Twice replays denied points before John Simon sent David Penner across. Parramatta behind by 2. Dean Pay's long arm got the Eels in front. Jason Smith's brilliant hands putting them beyond reach. Carl Lovett finding the corner. Smith assured of the Queensland Origin jersey.
He's having the best game he's ever played in his whole career.
Parramatta home by 3. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
St George has moved into a share of the premiership lead after its win over Melbourne. The Dragons handed the Storm their first loss at home, winning 18-14.
For those who listen, St George always liked its chances at Olympic Park. Unbeaten in 5 games, the Dragons also packed form and confidence for the trip south. More than 13,000 locals roared the Storm's every rumble, and little separated the sides throughout the 80 minutes. In the end, St George scored 3 tries to 2, ending Melbourne's unbeaten run at home and continuing an impressive one of their own. Adelaide supporters were looking for their money back after Canberra had scored 2 easy tries in the first 10 minutes.
McClendon also finds his way to the try line.
12-0 at half-time soon jumped to 18-0 when McClendon again produced clear thinking from a padded head. The Rams then clicked into action. 3 quick tries suddenly reduced Canberra's lead to just 4 points, setting up a frantic final 10 minutes. It turned into a Mac attack Adelaide couldn't digest. McClendon did the early damage, McFadden finished them off. And Auckland's Nigel Wagner was lucky to stay on the field last night.
Very high, that.
The Warriors' defence ordinary, at times embarrassing in the Sharks' 12-point win. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Final replay, but Newcastle didn't give Manly a show at Brookvale today. Sydney City upset Brisbane at ANZ, Norths down Souths, while the Knights finished 50-16 winners.
The Knights were certainly in a bullying mood. Kosef was smashed and Sidaris knocked out in the first minute.
Another Manly player down, so 2 of them are down.
In a lopsided contest, Newcastle scored 5 first-half tries, with 2 rating among the best this year. The first featured support play at its highest level.
Gidley for O'Davis. O'Davis back for Gidley. Gidley floats it out for Grogan.
It was open season on Sea Eagle as Newcastle established an imposing half-time lead.
From some fragile tackling. He's got the ball down for Jackson. Jackson back for Grogan. Grogan can see the try line, clear the tarmac.
In 10 years of competition, the Knights had never beaten Manly at Brookvale, but victory today never looked more certain.
Coming fast, McDougall's going to score!
For 60 minutes, Brisbane and Sydney City turned on a real arm wrestle. Unbeaten in 24 consecutive matches at home, the Broncos scored first after a Roosters fumble.
Dropped it. Langer will score.
G also hunted mistakes. And Singh locked the scores up after Brisbane opened in the middle.
Singh for the try line.
2 more tries in 3 minutes sealed Sydney City's upset win. First Sailor took the wrong option, then Fittler the right in the Roosters' 14-point victory. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Souths put aside talk of any internal problems to produce a gallant effort against Norths before losing by 12 points.
Without a win over Norths at the football stadium since 1989, Souths got over the line early, but Greg Florimo produced a top save.
That's not even close.
Ben Eichen wiggled out of Phil Howlett's handling to open North scoring, before South's planned move worked a treat. Darryl Trindle and Craig Wing combining for Tim Brasher.
South Sydney skipper will score a very neat 4-pointer.
Just a month ago, Norths won 42-8. This time, the Rabbitohs stayed close for an hour, before Fairley, Larson and Taylor stood out as the Bears won by 12 points. Missing 10 regular first graders, North Queensland put on a bold display hosting Canterbury.
He's going to do it on his own.
The Cowboys led 18-12 deep into the second half and could have buried the Bulldogs had this try not been disallowed.
Well, has he made the movement actually with his arm forward?
But Canterbury fought back to snatch a late victory. Darryl Halligan's kicking proving the difference after both sides scored 4 tries. A runaway win for Illawarra against Western Wollongong, where Will Robinson found clear space for the Steelers.
That's a great
The Magpies led 14-10 at half-time, but Illawarra piled on 5 tries in the second half and capped off a special night for veteran winger Rod Wishart, who scored 18 points to pass 1,000 career points for the Steelers. 5 teams now.
Men, the Warriors scored an upset 20-6 victory.
The Warriors started like a team determined to erase an embarrassing statistic. Auckland hadn't won away from home for 3 years, and the underdog soon rattled the Bulldogs.
They can't get him.
At 18-2, everything was going right for the Warriors. 3 tries to 0, but then a setback before the break when Susu got his bye-byes.
He's shutting off.
But Canterbury couldn't convert the advantage. The Warriors' defence held, and Auckland had buried the hoodoo.
But the Warriors driving back.
Last night, North Sydney ventured to Marathon Stadium and looked to have the points safely packed for the trip home.
And Dallas is away for a try.
At half-time, Newcastle trailed by 8, with desperate defence denying the Knights at every corner.
What an effort by Lation.
After the break, the Johns kicking game put Newcastle back into the match, while Stewart was lucky to finish the game after going on report for this.
Yeah, Josh Stewart again.
It turned into a thriller, with Andrew Johns needing this conversion to break the deadlock.
It's on line, and it's got the upright and bounced in.
After the game, Paul Harrigan confirmed he'd been affected by rumours of domestic trouble.
Pretty glad the day's over. I'm going to win and move on now.
And Souths looked ready to spring an upset, only to fade against Melbourne. The Storm hit back with 2 tries, eventually winning 14-6. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Rookie Ryan Cross scoring twice in the Roosters' win over Manly at the football stadium. Penrith upset Balmain. Canberra clocked up 50 points against North Queensland. West down Gold Coast, while Sydney City beat off a Manly comeback to win by 20 points.
Sydney City had early luck, Matt Singh making the most of a loose ball to score first points. Both teams traded penalty goals before Lions combined with Menzies to make it 8-all. Then Fittler went solo.
Fittler will get the try.
In his first top-flight game, 18-year-old Ryan Cross lived up to expectations.
Cross on debut will get a try.
The Roosters ran in 3 tries in 9 minutes, Singh's second, all skill.
Singh for the try line. They won't catch him. What a try.
Cross claimed try number 2 in the second half, but Manly almost wrecked a dream debut, staging a 3-try fight back before fading. The Sea Eagles conceding 94 points in the past 2 weeks. The trademark runaround recalled glory days for Greg Alexander, the Penrith half orchestrating most of the damage against Balmain.
After him, Dominic run around him, looks for the winger, Robbie Beckett goes all the way to...
It was vintage brandy in the opening 40 minutes as the Panthers overcame their injury toll to post 4 first-half tries. Alexander's opposite, Shane Dunley, scored some consolation, but the Tigers have now lost 4 in a row. No friendly reunions between Canberra and North Queensland. Former Raider turned Cowboy Steve Walters lucky to avoid the sin bin. Canberra led 14-12 at the break but cut loose in the second half. The Raiders racking up 9 tries to post 50 points.
Kicks ahead, will he win the chase? Leslie
In an added bonus, Blues Origin captain Laurie Daly suffered no injury. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
At Campbelltown Sports Ground, West moved off the bottom of the ladder, scoring its second win of the season with a 10-point victory over Gold Coast.
West hit the front early and never surrendered the advantage. The Magpies crossed twice before the Chargers found some life. But this was a game for the Campbelltown connection.
Leach gets across.
At the turn, West led by 4. It wasn't until Kennedy's try the Magpies looked home. A strong effort from the forward, but the ball boy still needs lessons. Late in the match, Denover made sure of the win.
Denover stepping, he runs, he scores!
Last night against Cronulla, Brisbane's Gordon Tallis went on report with his Origin spot now on the line.
Watch the elbow over the top.
On a miserable night, mistakes were inevitable and Cronulla wanted revenge.
And he's tackled in goal, he's lost the ball. That's a try.
In his comeback game from a 5-week suspension, Ryan was also placed on report. The ref didn't like his protest either.
Hey, we're not going to put up with that either. Off you go.
A rare win against the Feed secured Cronulla's 10-point victory, with Brisbane no longer the competition leaders.
Richardson Bazisti!
A scare for Adelaide's Luke Williamson, injured in the loss to Parramatta at Parks. It was feared he'd broken his neck, but Williamson will be sidelined for a month. In a low-scoring game, Parramatta won 10-2. There was plenty behind St George's victory against Illawarra. The Dragons are beating all comers. Last night's win, they're 7th on the trot. After 10 rounds, the Roosters, Newcastle and Melbourne helped make a cramped front row. Brisbane has slipped. Adelaide can't get any lower. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Roads to 4, but were let down by the boot of the usually reliable Andrew Johns. Queensland snatching victory 24-23.
Now they're on
In '94, they stole Origin glory with a try from hell, and in a few gut-wrenching moments, Queensland sent a chilling reprise across a stunned Sydney football stadium.
They're over again. Queensland are in.
A forgotten hero, replacement Tony Carroll, silencing the echoes of why he was there at all.
People didn't think I deserved to be here, and I just thought, well, I just got to get out and do my job, and hopefully they think different of it.
His coach furious at criticism of Carroll walking out.
Why don't you just check what they wrote about Tony Carroll, eh? Make your own comment.
It was an Origin that lacked nothing, the defence brutal, the attack sizzling, the kicking game telling.
Rebound to try. It's Walter.
For Kevin Walters, the tragic loss of his wife a few months ago, now drenched in emotion.
For different reasons, and I think tonight it's only my second Origin win from the start, and it's very pleasing, albeit the circumstances.
The 11th minute, Matt Singh obstructed Terry Hill, a disallowed Steve Renouf try. But then Laurie Daly engineered a magnificent reply.
Daly using Brasher. Brasher puts Wishart into the corner.
Then Daly for Brasher.
Then turns it in for Brasher. The flying Tim Brasher is over the 20-metre line. He's going to go there, and he puts it down.
7 from half-time, John set a rocket hurtling skywards. That man Daly on the spot.
Shut it down, Daly. Daly's over the line.
And then right before the break, John snapped a 35-metre bullet through the posts. The Blues ahead 13-6, the better team. But in the 51st minute, Alan Langer angled through the strong New South Wales defence.
McDougall failed to clean up.
3 later, a tired and hurt Daly fumbled another Langer finger trembler, and Queensland were ahead.
Daly makes a mistake, Langer scores.
But the Blues, not done with, came again. It set up an edge-of-the-seat thriller. The old heads like Wishart came out running and running. But debutant Martin Lang had heart. Fittler sparking a late try, New South Wales thought they had sealed it. Queensland against the clock, and worked till they could work no more. But Hart had won them a miraculous victory.
You got to go for 80 minutes, and the boys just never give in.
And we're going to win up there. It's going to be simple as that.
Farron Hotham, 7 Nightly News.
Balmain has given Captain Paul Sirenen the best possible 33rd birthday present and continued a disappointing 24 hours for Tom Raudonikis. Having lost 4 games in succession, the Tigers bounced back with a 20-12 win over the Magpies.
Obviously suffering from a lack of time on the field, Ken McGuinness blew an early opportunity.
Good ball from Langmack. McGuinness couldn't come up with it.
It was one of 16 mistakes in a forgettable first half. It wasn't until early in the second term that the Tigers took the initiative.
To Webber. He'll be tackled but crashes across the line.
Both sides' kicking games produced tries before Michael Gillette put the game beyond the Magpies.
Gives it away to Kennedy. The Tigers are in again.
Replacement Hudson Smith won't recall much of the match.
He's asleep before he hit the ground.
West showing plenty of enterprise when it was all too late.
Good ball back on the inside for Ken McGuinness. He looks towards the line. A great ball away to Hodgson.
Paul Gregg, 7 Nightly News.
Over Sydney City today in a round heavily affected by Friday night's State of Origin. In Auckland, the Warriors defeated Canberra. A 14-all draw between Melbourne and Illawarra. Manly thumped Cronulla. Brisbane overpowered Canterbury. Newcastle struggled against Souths, while North ran in 7 tries against the Roosters.
Sydney City went within a whisker of opening the scoring, but strong defence and a wily veteran gave North the right start. Florimo was having a huge impact. He lifted all the Bears, with North's leading 14-0 at the break.
Dallas looks at the corner, he's over.
A rehearsed move then stretched the advantage to 20, and it just got worse for the Roosters. In the end, it was a 7 tries to 2 thrashing.
Oh, gets it back, now. Florimo's on his way.
For half the match, penalties kept Canterbury in touch with Brisbane, but no one was going to stop a rocket like Michael Hancock.
That is just sheer determination.
Little separated them at half-time, but Brisbane's class came through. Just 2 days after most had played for Queensland, the Broncos still finished the stronger. The Warriors took the points, while 3 Raiders finished on report after an eventful match in Auckland. Canberra's Danny Lima went high, Luke Prittis went low, while Ben Kennedy forgot where he was.
But it was high.
It was the wrong area to be in front, with Auckland recording a rare back-to-back win.
The skill and the strength in this.
And Newcastle did it tough against Souths. It finished a lot closer than most predicted, with Matthew Johns producing a leading hand in the 8-point win.
Grubbers at race for the ball. He's going to win a race. He does.
Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
A much-needed win for Manly. The Sea Eagles State of Origin reps backed up to mesmerise the Sharks at Brookvale for a 32-12 victory.
Jeff Tuvey copped plenty of hits on Friday night for the Blues. The only difference today was he wore maroon. Cronulla's Chris McKenna on report for this shot. The high ball proved more costly for the Sharks. Luke Phillips coming down with the first 4-pointer. Cronulla's cause was lost when Nick Zisti was sent off in the second half for a high tackle on Nick Kosef. Steve Menzies showed no ill effects from State of Origin, scoring his 7th try for the season, then sending Craig Hancock to post his own milestone.
And he'll celebrate 200 games with a try.
Illawarra seemed set to become another Melbourne Storm victim when Sean Timmins was sent off, but the 12-man Steelers rallied, Trent Barrett scoring in the dying minutes to salvage a 14-all draw. Disaster for Penrith against Adelaide. Playmaker Greg Alexander suffered a suspected broken collarbone and will be sidelined for at least 6 weeks. A month ago, Penrith thrashed Adelaide by 42 points, but the easy beat Rams turned entertainers to score only their 2nd win for the season.
The Rams go ahead and score a try.
Parramatta ran in 3 tries in 12 minutes to take a 20-8 half-time lead against North Queensland.
So the kick in behind the line for Kelly.
Cowboys centre Noah Nandruku was given a warning after this collision with referee Eddie Ward, the Eels winning by 17 points. St George remained the competition's quiet achiever. The Dragons down Gold Coast with some razzle-dazzle for their 8th consecutive victory, their best winning streak since 1977.
Anthony Mundine will score behind the posts. That's the try of the year.
Newcastle and Saints now share the competition lead with Melbourne a point behind, Cronulla rounding out the top 10. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
Its second half performance may not have been as stunning, but it was good enough to confirm their status as one of the premiership favourites.
Both sides were desperate to dominate tonight's clash. The Roosters didn't lose sight of the main game, though Lamb could have been forgiven for it.
Yeah, it was an accidental poke in the eye.
Against the run of play, it was Andrew Johns jinking through for first points.
Andrew Johns will score.
The Knights looked set to stretch that lead just before the break. Matt Singh had other ideas, pulling in a kick and running 90 metres to score.
He's got no hope of catching him, and Matt Singh puts it over the line.
The contest ended at half-time, though, with the Knights virtually mistake-free in the second term and sharp in attack.
Rubber kick, this will be a try.
Moody's dummy good enough to fool the best in the game.
Throws a dummy and puts it over the line.
Newcastle cementing themselves on top of the table. No doubt watching with more than a passing interest was Warren Ryan. The Knights announcing today he'll take over as coach next season when Malcolm Reilly returns to England.
Do I have their confidence? Well, I can't speak for them, but I'm certainly confident they're a very good football team. It's a privilege to be asked to be associated with them. I've never felt like this about a coaching appointment.
After stints with Newtown, Canterbury, Balmain and West, Ryan's been in coaching retirement for 3 years. The chance of returning to his hometown too good to pass up.
Pretty much only Newcastle that could have dragged me back into it, frankly.
Mark Barlin for Nightline.
For their 9th straight win, St George started strongly with a try in the 2nd minute.
And Bartram scores for the Dragons.
Matthew Rodwell's well-placed kick increasing the lead.
Lanahan gets the bounce, and he gets the try, does he?
The Tigers had their chances, crossing the line twice in the first half, only to be ruled no tries. By the break, 14-2 with 2 Wayne Bartram penalties. More disappointment for Balmain in the second half. Another try disallowed. Minutes later, more breathing space for St George. The Dragons adding another notch to their victory belt.
They reply at the other end with a try.
Last night, a professional performance by Newcastle was too much for the Roosters. The Knights scoring 3 tries to 1 in a 20-4 scoreline.
Rubber kick, this will be a try. No problems for Grogan.
And not even Houdini would have dared put his hand up to match North Queensland's escape against Penrith. Down 26-0 at half-time, the Cowboys won 36-28 in one of league's most incredible comebacks. James Knight, 10 News.
Daly was a key factor for an inspiring Canberra win over Brisbane this afternoon at Bruce Stadium. In other round 12 results, Canterbury thrashed Manly, Illawarra defeated Souths, Wests overcame Adelaide, Melbourne absolutely thumped the Gold Coast 62-6, and the Raiders came from behind to outlast the Broncos.
Early on, Bruce Stadium looked like the latest paddock to host a Broncos stampede, Wendell Sailor making it 14-0.
Corner's getting closer, he's over.
But Canberra came to life in the second half, Simon Woolford leading the Raiders' revival.
Simon Woolford, he had the little legs going like a Morris Minor.
Brandon Pearson crashed over to put Canberra in front 18-14 before Steve Renouf snuck under to make it 18-all. When replays got the green light, Laurie Daly seemed resigned to a draw, but the captain couldn't predict a fairy tale finish.
He's got the fullback to beat, he steps him up and he sets sail, he's over the line.
Another week, another high shot for Manly's Jeff Tuvey, this time against Canterbury. Replacing the injured Jason Hetherington, Robert Mears made the most of his recall. This tackle on Luke Phillips earned a report for Glenn Hughes before he and his brother made it a dog of the day for the Sea Eagles.
Oh, it's the Entertainers from the late 70s!
Darryl Halligan kicked his 26th consecutive conversion to equal Mick Cronin's record. And a morale booster for Wests against Adelaide, winger Brett Hodgson scoring a hat-trick in the Magpies' 12-point win, marred by the last-minute send-off of Darren Fritz. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
The Melbourne Storm buried the Gold Coast this afternoon, running in 11 tries, once again confirming their class.
The locals say he's already a cult hero south of the border. Today, the Storm's Marcus Bai did what all wingers live for.
Bai comes to the fullback, back inside to Hill, and Hill has got a double.
Melbourne led by 18 at half-time. 3-try entree followed by an 8-try banquet.
Oh, great pick-up by Marquette.
For 80 minutes, Melbourne didn't miss a beat. And once again, Bai produced that something special in a 56-point smashing.
King comes at him. Marcus Bai will score.
Souths had Illawarra's measure before McGregor showed his class. The Steelers skipper beat 6 players, with another 2 grasping at the finish.
What a solo effort!
Most of the second half possession, Illawarra again scored in the final minutes.
Andrew Hart!
In the early exchanges, North Sydney got the better of Cronulla last night.
And in they go, the Bears.
A 5th tackle bomb from Taylor then had Peachy looking to the heavens. It resulted in some serious soul-searching.
The Bears are in again!
Cronulla fought back, but not without controversy. It finished with Howland crossing, the replay show a knock-on, and with that an offside try scorer. It rocked the Bears and lifted the Sharks, with Cronulla winning by 4.
Did he score? Yes, he has!
Parramatta scored an 8-point win against Auckland, but that result also left one team seething. Down 8-6, the Warriors claimed they were denied a fair try after an Eels mistake. The ref said no. The replay favoured Auckland.
Come off the Parramatta play.
After 12 rounds of the competition, Newcastle and St George remain on top of the ladder. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Weekend for our State of Origin heroes, with most backing up for their clubs after last night's big win over Queensland. The series now rests on Game 3 in a fortnight after New South Wales won 26 points to 10.
The victors arrived home this morning, sporting battle scars, but still on a high from last night.
They really hate you up here. It's great to win up here.
Early on, Alan Langer loomed as the Blues' nemesis, a perfect kick putting Wendell Sailor over inside 3 minutes. But after that, it was blue murder. New South Wales kicked back when the Queenslanders allowed an Andrew Johns bomb to bounce.
Bounce is good for the Blues.
The Blues regathered, a brilliant Laurie Daly pass putting Adam McDougall across for their first try. Despite a cut eye, Paul Harrigan soldiered on, but Queensland was mortally wounded by Paul McGregor. Another Daly pass set up his first try. 5 minutes later, a break by Johns created havoc for the Maroons' defence. And the perfect platform for the big centre's second.
McGregor!
The second half, Fittler inflicted further damage, his high kick beyond Queensland's reach, but not Tim Brash's.
Here's a try coming. Brash is over.
Despite a Queensland comeback, prop Rodney Howe refused to take a backward step.
He's run 30, 40 metres.
While Nick Kosseff stopped Martin Lang dead in his tracks. 16 points equals the Blues' biggest winning margin, but after being criticised for Game 1, the coach was accepting no praise.
Don't start. No comment.
Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News, Brisbane.
North Queensland has continued on from last week's great comeback win against Penrith. Today, the Cowboys were always in front, beating West 40 points to 10.
Only a desperate fullback stopped the Cowboys from scoring in the first minute. But nothing could prevent a clever pass from Steve Walters from finding its mark. There was an element of doubt in the Magpies' response.
He's out before the ball is actually...
But North Queensland soon found itself 12 points in front after Nandruku stepped out of trouble.
He stepped away from McGuinness. He'll keep going and score.
It got worse for West. In the seconds before half-time, Tassel made up for earlier fumbles.
They all go forward. Chris Tassel got that.
West needed to be the team to score next, but in a match of mistakes, the Cowboys shot clear. North Queensland finished with 8 tries to 2. With the best started by Shearer, supported by Prince, and finished off by Warwick.
With Scott Prince. Prince looking for his second try, able immediately to give his pass back on the inside.
Quentin Fletcher, National 9 News. Still sore from Friday night, soon knew how their teammates felt. 2 first-half tries gave Parramatta a 12-0 lead. Brisbane narrowed that to 2 after the break, but a Lockyer mistake was one reason for the Broncos' 4th loss in 5 matches.
They're claiming the try, Parramatta.
A high tackle from North's Ben Eichen presented Canterbury's Daryl Halligan with the chance to claim a new goal-kicking record. Halligan needed this to make it 27 in a row to eclipse Mick Cronin's world record by 1. It was Canterbury's only bright spot. Norths ran away 38-4 winners. Lucky the ref knew where he was going when Penrith travelled to Auckland. The Panthers tried to elbow Ridge out of the equation, and Jones put the Warriors back in front when Namu followed his lead.
Somebody's under the pace. Namu on return.
Auckland handled every challenge that came its way, while Penrith was let down when it mattered most in the 1-point loss. And anyone who went to the football stadium today saw more than a convincing Sydney City win. The Roosters scored one of the tries of the year in a lopsided contest. Quentin Fletcher, National 9 News.
Melbourne has moved into outright second on the ladder after scoring a hard-fought 25-16 win over Balmain at Leichhardt Oval.
Melbourne started without injured Origin props Glenn Lazarus and Rodney Howe, as Balmain's Darren Centre steamrolled his way to the corner. The Storm replied strongly. A cutout pass from Brett Kamali saw Russell Bowden score.
Stepping Melbourne!
The journeyman forward with a bump, spin and run then put Melbourne ahead 14-4. Michael Gillette sliced through early in the second half, and Laloa Milford's try put the Tigers ahead, before Kamali orchestrated the Melbourne match winner.
They'll score, Melbourne!
Cronulla hosted ARL Premiers Newcastle and used the glut of possession to take a 12-0 lead.
A terrific try to the Sharks!
Without injured leader Paul Harrigan, the Knights economised on their limited forays downfield to wipe out the deficit before half-time. The Sharks nosed in front with penalty goals before Newcastle finished off its comeback with Mark Hughes' converted try. A 6-try romp for Illawarra over Gold Coast, the Steelers flexing their muscles against the understrength Chargers. Trent Barrett scored twice in the 22-point win. St George's 9-match winning streak is over, snapped by Adelaide in dramatic circumstances. Graham Appo's sideline conversion gave Adelaide the lead, Tony Iro taking extraordinary steps to secure a surprise Rams result.
What is he running down the clock?
Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Games for Cliff Lions, but the Sea Eagles, who have only won 4 games this season, were disappointing, losing 24-12.
Pretty rocky road for
the Northern Beaches felt the brunt of a horrible day in Sydney. The Sea Eagles season has been just as stormy. The Raiders gave every indication they were about to keep it that way.
McNamara outside, uses him now.
Jeff McNamara collected his second inside 10 minutes. Canberra 8 points to 2 at half-time. Ken Nagus back from injury, a superb individual effort. The Raiders out by 10.
Kenny Nagus is there. That's a try. Yep.
Jim Sadara seemed to sum up Manly's afternoon.
Unbelievable. What is he doing?
But then the locals came storming back. 2 tries in 5 minutes at 14-12. The 2 points were anyone's.
That's a brilliant Manly try.
But Canberra surged again. Jason Croker, the match sealer.
Croker to cross and score.
1,000 career points to David Furner. So after round 13, Canberra a game clear in 8th spot. Manly season at crisis point.
And let's take a quick look at the ladder now at the end of round 13. And the Knights are in top spot, close on their heels Melbourne. Parramatta's win over the Broncos takes the Eels to 3rd, and the Raiders are now on 16 points.
Big's heavy loss to North Queensland. West sit back with an exciting win today. The Magpies beat Auckland 18-16, with the result in doubt right to the finish.
Through the McGuinness brothers, West cornered the early points, while Wagner tried to get Auckland on a roll.
Takes it straight forward, picks out. The score.
Both sides were denied 4-pointers right on the line, and it was skills of another kind that resulted in the Magpies' second try.
The World Cup in France, it's here in Campbelltown.
Wagner never stopped trying to lift his team, but it was another Ken McGuinness pass that put West in the comfort zone. The lead proved just enough. Auckland finished full of running, but couldn't deny West a 2-point win.
Healy to kick.
The value of the kick was booted home when Cronulla took on Sydney City last night.
Chance here for Cronulla, I do believe.
A kick and chase almost resulted in the Sharks' second try, but the Roosters got a penalty for the push on Walker. The try to Goulet then narrowed Cronulla's lead, but the Sharks countered with a familiar ploy. Another Healy bomb, and Barnett couldn't come to grips with it.
I can't believe it. No.
The Roosters' centre had good company. In the second half, Peachy also felt lonesome on the night.
And Freddie Fittler says, thank you very much.
Scoring finished like it started, with Sydney City beating Cronulla at its own game. Quinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Arrived in Sydney's north in good spirits with the inclusion of Ricky Stewart, playing his first match since round 3 after being struck down by a potentially fatal illness. But the Bears soon spoiled any Canberra hopes of a Stewart-inspired victory.
Taylor gets it back to Aiken. Aiken's over.
Brett Dallas showed blistering speed, putting Norths further in front.
Gets it over the line.
The Bears' blitz continued, giving them a 22-point half-time lead. In the second half, the Raiders rallied, running in several quick tries, but to no avail, the Bears taking out the game 34-22.
Cut-out ball now.
At Cogra, the Dragons were out to make amends for last week's shock loss to Adelaide. Jim Lenahan crossed early to give the home side the lead.
Finds the try line for the Dragons.
The Dragons totally outplaying the Cowboys for a 16-0 lead at half-time.
Shearer can't get him.
The Cowboys stormed back into the match in the second half, a late try getting them to within 2 points.
Try time on the far side.
But St George held on for the win, consolidating their spot in the top 5. Canterbury travelled to Marathon Stadium to take on the competition frontrunners. The Bulldogs able to shackle the Knights' attacking flair, the teams locked it 4-4 at half-time. Newcastle toughing it out to eventually win 12-4. Nick Edwards, Sky News.
If the Tigers weren't tough enough, the Steelers also took on the post.
Bang!
Illawarra blew a certain chance to draw closer, but Balmain put the game out of reach when Milford eventually found his feet.
The foot race! Barrett in the chase!
The Tigers scored 7 tries in all, with Milford bagging a treble.
It's away from Wishart! A stumble, but all the way to the line! There's 3 of them!
Parramatta had some early luck against Manly last night.
It bounces nicely into the hands of Dallas Weston.
And Jason Bell gave his support a clear run to the line.
And Shane Werrick will score for the Eels.
Parramatta led 12-2, and it just got worse for Manly with Kosef on report.
It's a dangerous tackle.
The Sea Eagles came back in the second half, eventually losing 17-14.
And the hole opened up.
At Penrith Stadium, Brisbane won only its second game in 6 matches, but anything looked possible early.
Looming up, Jorgensen.
But it was Penrith who couldn't climb that mountain, with Saylor scoring one of his specials in a round for explosive wingers.
Going to go 80 metres possibly again.
There was no stopping the speedsters. Melbourne's Marcus Bai also loves to gallop, and Adelaide had no match in another good win for the new boys.
Newcastle's win over Canterbury has them alone at the top of the NRL ladder. Still confounding league critics in its debut year, Melbourne holds second spot, followed by Parramatta and St George. The Tigers' big win over Illawarra moves them into the top 10. South Sydney finds itself in last position after the 2-point loss to the Gold Coast.
It's to be Alan Langer's final game for Queensland. Then it was a fitting end to a 12-year Origin career. With New South Wales disrupted by injuries and suspension, Queensland won 19-4, clinching the first reunified series.
Laurie Daly wearing maroon was enough to make any New South Wales fans see red, but for Queensland there was no singing the blues.
One week you're living it up and the next week you're down, so...
The first downer for Daly's men came inside 8 minutes and featured almost as many pairs of Queensland hands.
Welders is into space, he's going to score! Kevin Welders!
New South Wales searched every centimetre of the field for points, yet Queensland's defence held firm. Tallis's destructive drive forward making huge holes in the Blues line.
And here's Ben Aiken, he's into big space and he'll score!
12-0. The man who never got a run in Game 1 got the Blues back into Game 3.
Ken McGuinness is over!
In the final minutes of the first half, replays revealed Saylor sent the ball dead. The Blues should have got the ball back. Instead, Queensland went to the break leading 12-4. Newcastle clubmates McDougall and O'Davis tangled in the second half. Minutes later, the Blues winger knocked on and was knocked out in a clash that sent eyes rolling. Wishart found it tough to open one of his, yet could only watch as Queensland skipper capped off a blinder. Langer's effort won him player of the series, but talk of retirement may be premature.
It'll be very hard to give away, but I'll just have to wait and see.
Wayne Bennett doubts he'll coach next year.
I can't guarantee that, no.
But his counterpart is keen to coach next season.
If everything goes the same way, I'll be throwing my hat in.
Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
On the club front, Norths and Parramatta play straight after the news, while Illawarra and Cronulla walked away with good wins today. The Steelers beat Adelaide and Cronulla was too strong for Souths at Shark Park.
Trista launched an early raid on the Rabbitohs line, and it was Peachy who came up rosy.
And now they're under all sorts of pressure. At
times, Souths had no defence, and as the mistakes continued, the frustration came out swinging.
Now there's a fight in back play, back on the 20.
The Rabbitohs tried to put some starch in their line, and from that, Lang learnt the benefits of a sidestep.
Martin Lang, will they get him? No, they won't.
Souths finally got on the board midway through the second half, when Trindle finished what he started. The Rabbitohs skipper tried all day, but Cronulla was always in control.
Ryan got a great ball over on the far side to Helen.
And all parties in the Robbie O'Davis drugs controversy have agreed to another hearing. All week, the issue plagued O'Davis, with last night's win by the Queenslanders giving him some brief reprieve.
80 minutes of tonight, I just felt like a rugby league player again, and I just wish I could play rugby league every minute of the day.
The new hearing will be heard under the ARL's doping policy and procedure. O'Davis wanted an open tribunal. Policy states it must be held in private. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
With random tests conducted after today's Manly-Penrith match and the Canberra-Newcastle game. Round 15 is now complete. Canterbury upset Sydney City, Brisbane smashed Western Suburbs, Auckland beat St George, Canberra defeated Newcastle, while Manly outclassed Penrith.
The Australian Sports Drug Agency's testing blitz began at Brookvale, with all 34 players involved in the Manly-Penrith clash tested.
It's just unfair, people taking steroids. It had to be done, and I think it's a good thing.
It's the first of many random raids that will see every player in the competition tested at some time this season. On the paddock, Penrith's horror injury run continued. Dave Woods, the first of several casualties with a back injury. Alf Duncan starred for Manly. A last-ditch grab brought Robbie Beckett down short of the line. The wingers try, completing Manly's 5th win for the season. And oh, well, Newcastle's Robbie O'Davis has already returned a positive drug test, yet he sat out of the night's clash with Canberra because of a back injury. He was sorely missed. 18-year-old Mark McClendon doing the damage for Canberra, scoring 2 tries.
McClendon is so quick.
Canberra's Luke Prittis was placed on report for this tackle, and officials managed to find enough wrong with this one to report David Furner. But the second rower got his own back as Newcastle surrendered the competition lead.
Furner! Oh, he wraps it up all right.
Bruce Stadium was the setting for the second random drug test of the day. All players who took part in that game also tested.
I think it should happen to clear the air, yeah. I think it's, the sooner the better.
No drug tests at Belmore, where Canterbury upset Sydney City by 12 points.
Barry Ward goes for the line, he's over and he's in.
Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
On its home ground, Auckland continued its unpredictable run, accounting for St George by 17 points.
The Warriors had never beaten St George before, but today they were never under threat. Auckland crossed twice before half-time, but for an individual effort, it was impossible to go past Nathan Blacklock. This try getting the Dragons to within 5.
Blacklock, Odin Ryan won't get him.
The result sealed. Kearney's trip may result in his own to the judiciary.
With great respect that Steve Kearney's in trouble.
Brisbane State of Origin stars had little trouble backing up against West, although Walters could have done without this.
Oh, there's a high tackle. This could be...
In a lopsided contest, Webke was unstoppable. Full time couldn't come quick enough for the Magpies. Brisbane scored 10 tries to 1.
Over they go for Brisbane.
Last night, North Queensland and a new-look Melbourne went head-to-head. Thank mercy it was finally the hands that did the trick.
Ray Mercy, the try-scoring machine of the Cowboys, goes in.
It was tight throughout. Both teams threw everything at each other, with Melbourne's great run continuing.
Fitzmark kept trying to get to him.
The Gold Coast also tried to soften up Balmain.
What a hit!
But the Tigers hit where it hurts more. Balmain scored 3 tries to 1, consolidating their position in the top half of the draw.
Look out, the Tigers are in for another.
There was plenty to like about Parramatta's win over Norths, but even the refs struggled to hold a straight face when Dimmick was penalised near full-time for fighting.
The report I've got is that you're the aggressor.
Of course, I hammered him. You're the first one. Look at him, ask him.
Listen, just cut the crap out, we're going to leave it.
It's the Melbourne Storm who should be laughing. The new boys are outright leaders of the competition. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
It's at Cogra Oval, the Saints faithful turning out in force to celebrate skipper Mark Coyne's 200th first-grade game. The Broncos were looking to spoil the party and open the scoring when Darren Lockyer dived over.
He is over the line, it was a soft try.
After being on the defensive for most of the half, the Dragons finally tied the scores, good hands resulting in a Stapleton try. The home side hit the front when Lee Murphy showed a brilliant turn of speed.
Here's Murphy! Murphy, the fullback! He'll go all the way! Murphy's over!
Another try on the siren, and the Saints were surprised 10-point leaders at the break.
Floats it, Blacklock's over! Blacklock's in!
Brisbane wasted no time after the half getting back into the match. 2 tries in 10 minutes and the scores were tied. An amazing move from Saylor saw him beat 4 St George defenders. His bust down the line leading to a Darren Smith 4-pointer, and the visitors were in front.
To the last line of defence, gets it to Darren Smith, and Smith gets his second try.
A fitting end to the game for ex-Dragon Gordon Tallis. His rampaging individual try, the pivotal play of the match. The Broncos scoring a stunning come-from-behind win.
That is sensational!
Justin Higgs, Sky News.
Of drug scandals to produce one of the performances of the season against Parramatta. In other round 16 matches, Illawarra down North Queensland, North Sydney held off Penrith, South Sydney upset Balmain, while the Knights ran in the Eels.
Before kick-off, an unprecedented speech from Newcastle boss Michael Hill, giving his reason why Robbie O'Davis has not been stood down from playing, despite his positive drug test.
Robbie O'Davis is playing today because we support him.
The crowd of 25,000 was applauding again inside 40 seconds as Parramatta produced some freakish football.
They're going to put it over the line. Oh, yes!
That was the only time the game was in doubt for Newcastle, and Andrew John's bomb went out of sight, sending Shivkovsky blind.
This isn't a game of rugby league, it's a nightmare!
Parramatta's dreams were shattered by the kicking game of both Johns brothers. While Andrew went high, Matthew kicked low, the siblings giving themselves a rap with Newcastle ahead 24-4. Adding injury to insult, Smith copped some rough treatment, but no more punishment than the scoreboard. O'Davis briefly forgot his problems to produce some points, but with a drugs tribunal looming, this may have been a farewell performance. North stalwart Greg Florimo is on report for this tackle against Penrith, but since switching to fullback, Ben Ikin's defence has been copybook. The Bears went to sleep in the second half before Michael Butner woke them up to score an 8-point win.
terrific try to the North Sydney Bears.
And Illawarra got home by 6 points against North Queensland, keeping the Steelers in the top 10. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
Tim Brasher's 200th game proved a memorable one. Playing against his old club, Brasher helped South Sydney to a rare win, beating Balmain by 4 points.
An old injury and a thirst for action again left some big names grandstanding, but Balmain overcame its problems first.
All of this is a try.
Trindle's skills gave Souths a real kick along, and no one got a hand on him in this solo effort.
They won't get to him.
When Slattery and Brasher were sin-bin within seconds of each other, the Rabbitohs' defence was in trouble, but not their resolve. First, Rodwell finished off Munro's good work.
They're in, South Sydney.
Then Forrest helped secure only their 3rd win for the season.
But Simon Forrest is going to complete the score.
And what a finish to Auckland's upset win over Melbourne. The Storm turned around a poor first half with 3 tries in 12 minutes.
Genius.
But the Warriors weren't finished. As the full-time siren sounded, Auckland trailed by 3, and only a 4-pointer would swing the result.
They'll score! Auckland, you're in! They've scored on the final bell!
The ref wasn't sure if everyone was onside. 3 minutes later, Auckland had its upset.
That's a try.
A David Peachey-inspired Cronulla didn't give the Bulldogs a sniff last night. The Cronulla fullback had a busy game, but how often do you see a prop take an intercept and then gallop almost 40 metres to score, all on a dodgy knee? Jason Stevens did just that.
And isn't he happy?
And Graham Appo was the runaway star when Adelaide belted the Gold Coast. Dropped last week for missing training, Appo scored 3 tries against the sorry Chargers. Newcastle is back on top of the competition table. Sydney City and Canberra play for their points tomorrow. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
In the 40-12 win, forward David Barnhill breaking his arm.
While Barnhill looked a broken man today, the Roosters forward still scratched around for some positives.
Rest doesn't do you any harm, I don't think, but I'd rather not be up. Maybe 1 week would be good, but 4 weeks is not too great, I suppose.
Barnhill did the damage 13 minutes into the second half of last night's big win. He knew immediately he was in trouble.
I thought the worst because I heard a bit of a snap sound, and that scared me more than anything else.
In an eventful game, Canberra scored one of the most unusual tries of the season, with the ball kicked 5 times before someone remembered to pick it up.
It's a World Cup. It's just opening up for them. It's a try.
4 Raiders were also placed on report for dangerous tackles. Clyde and Seabold for lifting Ricketson. Then DeVico and Prittis earned the ref's rap for doing likewise to Dooley.
It was all right until nearly the end, and then you turned him, his legs up in the air and his head straight down on the ground.
It was spiteful throughout, with the Raiders constantly pushing the limits.
Oh, taken high. How high was that?
In the end, Sydney City turned around a poor performance against Canterbury last week to easily account for Canberra. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
In drug storm in Melbourne, the Brisbane club came into the match buoyant after this week re-signing Alan Langer. But it was the visitors who opened the scoring, Marcus Bycrossing, after just 4 minutes. The Broncos hit back through 2 Wendell Saylor tries, the second a brilliant individual effort.
Saylor away from one, steps around another, down the corridor on the right, he's over again.
The visitors tied the scores just before the break, Robbie Ross crashing over next to the post. And when Kamali finished off the play he'd started just after the half, the Storm were back in front.
Back in the centre, oh, how easy. Kamali's under the post. To the left for Langer.
Alan Langer showed exactly why he's so valuable to the Broncos to knot the scores once again. Brisbane running in another 3 tries in the final 15 minutes to seal the game, making it the first time all season Melbourne has lost 2 games on the trot. Justin Hicks, Sky News.
Now look to a place in Rugby League's top 10 after winning at one of the toughest of venues, Auckland. Adelaide's resurgence coincided with Balmain's fall from playoff contention. Brisbane overcame Melbourne late in their game, but the Steelers' road victory kicks off this report. With Auckland's captain out of action, Illawarra took full advantage. Some delicate handling sending the Steelers to the break up 12-0.
And it looks as though they have got a second.
After a flat first half, Auckland finally gained momentum. Joe Vargas tried the beginning of the Warriors' comeback, something Illawarra's Craig Smith tried to stop by himself. Instead, he ended up on report.
There might be something on the end of this one for Smith.
Auckland's goal kicking their downfall, Illawarra home by 3.
Balmain continues to slide back down the league ladder. The Tigers last night were on the wrong end of a 52-point thrashing by Adelaide. The Rams notching up their first back-to-back win this season. And the Broncos and Melbourne met for the first time. The match worthy of a State of Origin tag.
Robbie Ross is over the line.
The game deadlocked at 16-all for most of the second half, till the Broncos steamroller took over.
Good on you, Mickey boy.
Lee Diffie, 10 News.
Near the top of the table with a big win over Parramatta. In other results, Canberra edged out Cronulla. Manly was never in danger against St George. Norths beat Wests, while the Roosters won 30-12.
Sydney City's defence applied some early heavies, leaving Nathan Hindmarsh light-headed and struggling to stay on his feet. But John Simon proved the most slippery eel, squirming his way through tackles for the first try. From there, it was all Roosters, or at least Adrian Lamb and Brad Fittler. Lamb matched his fellow halves' solo effort before the pair combined to put on a brilliant double act.
Back and away for Fittler to get his second.
After copping a few high hits himself in recent weeks, Jason Smith got one back on Matt Singh, but the winger kept his head, and although Parramatta got within 6 points, Singh's fingertip touchdown put the Roosters beyond reach.
That's a try, I think.
Plenty of push and shove between Manly and St George, but Saints struggled to pull in Steve Menzies, the back rower bagging 2 tries in the first half. John Hopewadi at his hard-running best in the second.
He beats him hands down. John Hopewadi.
Manly's Terry Hill is on report. So too St George's Wayne Bartram. But the 22-point win keeps the Sea Eagles in finals contention. A return to original strips failed to rid Wests of fatal mistakes against North. North scored 26 points in 25 minutes and despite a Magpie comeback, got home by 14. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
In other league, Canberra did it the hard way, coming from behind to beat Cronulla.
In a tight first 40, Richardson proved a real handful, and while he couldn't get the ball down this time, a few minutes later it looked easy.
He'll get that.
But Canberra hit the lead for the first time when Kennedy collected on Clyde's good work. Cronulla hit back with another 4-pointer, but Pritis sealed a hard-fought result.
British celebrates.
Last night, Penrith and Newcastle turned on a thriller. Now playing for pride, the Panthers pounced with 2 quick tries.
They'll score another one.
And Andrew John's bomb scared the life out of Thompson. Then Peyton hit like a freight train.
Bobby Thompson.
It got down to a thrilling finish. Newcastle again edged ahead through Johns. Then, with a minute remaining, Penrith landed the equaliser.
He's put it between the post.
In the final seconds, the Panthers launched one last raid, but the plan came undone and the scores finished level.
Cleaned up by the Knights.
There was only 8 points in it when Souths and Canterbury went to half-time. The Bulldogs threw away the leash after the break and by full-time had finished 30-8 winners.
All the way he'll go.
And the talking point wasn't North Queensland's 10-point win over the Gold Coast, but the refs sending off of a Chargers trainer.
Now, this bloke's finished for the night. I want him behind the fence.
It didn't reach any great heights. The Cowboys scored 2 tries to 1, with Shearer defying the aches and pains of a long career. Newcastle remains atop of a congested table, with Canberra continuing to make inroads. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Pressure at Parramatta Stadium, clinging to the top 10, Jim Dimmick willing to test their grip.
But
3 minutes in, Jason Smith on wobbly legs, his head still clear enough to pick out Stuart Kelly.
They've got numbers, they'll score, Kelly. Oh, Kelly's in so easily.
A barrage on Shafosky went unrewarded, and not so peachy keen at the other end.
Oh, peachy and zesty.
In 20 minutes, 3 Eels held up over the line.
Look out, he's going to put it over the line, but he can't put it down.
But Julian Troy not to be denied against his former teammates.
Troy throws the dummy, puts it over the line. The referee can't deny this time.
With their playmaking forward injured again, the Eels looked wide for more. 14-2 at half-time.
Barnes. Carriage comes inside and puts it over the line. Parramatta scored their 3rd try.
8 minutes after the break, Cronulla breached again.
Penner. He'll score, Penner. Oh, so easy. He had one bloke running away from him.
Finally, a counter-attack. Peachy bringing the gap back to 12.
Sure, Peachy's gone through. Take it away, Pops.
There's a chance here for Zisti. More than a chance, you would think. He's over the line. Momentum has taken him there.
10 minutes left. Not enough time for the Sharks, but a great try to keep the fans in the stands.
Did well. Howland looking on the inside. Can he beat him on the outside? He did. Oh, that's a good try scored by Brett Howland.
Self-punishment for late mistakes, but Parramatta held on 22-12. Their 13th win, likely to push the Sharks out of the 10.
Storm ended a two-match losing streak, beating Manly 22-12, and Parramatta were too good for Cronulla by the same score. Today, the Gold Coast in an upset.
Across the park.
With only one win at home this season, the Gold Coast played the opening half, wanting to change the pattern.
Lee Odenryan fumbles it.
Auckland's Lee Odenryan helping the Chargers get their first try. Graham Mackay, the second.
Mackay is away, the veteran. I don't think he'll have the speed. He puts the ears back. He gets the ball on the inside. Richie Allen has speed to burn. He promotes the ball further, and Hudson gets across.
The second half and a strong Auckland comeback, but it was anyone's game right down to the siren.
Off the right boot, and a cut.
With Andrew Eddinghausen out for the remainder of the season, things only worsened for Cronulla, as Parramatta scored in the first 3 minutes.
They've got numbers, they'll score, Kelly.
The Parramatta onslaught continued. The Sharks' defence, though, equal to the task.
And a catch and pass for Weston. Held up again. Simon for
Cronulla's defence finally crumbled, allowing the Eels to cross for 4 tries. The only consolation, the Sharks' second try, the best of the game.
Looking on the inside, can he beat him on the outside? He did!
And Melbourne's sparkling rookie season continues. The Storm last night easily beating last year's grand finalists Manly. Lee Diffie, 10 News.
It was a sort of homecoming for Brad Fittler, who went back to Penrith Park with his informed Sydney City side. But minutes after kick-off, Adrian Lamb thought he was in Disneyland.
This isn't exactly what the Roosters needed.
Former Bronco Sid Domick tried one of their favourite moves, back inside onto a perfect pass from Matt Adamson to give the Panthers the early lead.
Adamson back on the inside, great ball to Sid Domick.
A broken leg to Andrew Walker put more pressure on the Roosters. Fittler's cool switch in play, the remedy.
Looking for options. Comes back to Hurst, who got it away to Shane Rigon, and finally they find a way to the line.
The man they call Freddie giving his old side nightmares. Another long ball sending Sydney City to the sheds, 14-8 leaders.
And that is try number 3 for the Roosters.
Last week, Penrith drew with Newcastle at home. Straight after the break, the scores were locked up again.
Inside to Beckett, who slipped a miraculous ball to David Woods.
Another Panthers strike. A fresh Brad Drew off the bench and in beside the posts.
Brad Drew will reach out.
Once in front, the Panthers never looked back. Their dominant second half against an injury-hit but ill-disciplined Sydney City shining through. Penrith with their first win of the winter, defeating the Roosters 24 points to 18. At Leichhardt, Wayne Pearce's Tigers hosted North Queensland. Balmain coming off a 52-0 hiding from Adelaide, and from the start, it was clear Lightning wouldn't strike twice. Balmain over in the 3rd minute.
Going up high and coming down, that's a try!
Before too long, the pattern was set. Balmain on the rampage, and the Cowboys giving their scoreboard attendant an easy night.
They've packed the blind side. Gillette with the pass. Yeah. James Legelow has gone in the corner.
The Tigers back in town, maintaining the 14-point lead over North Queensland at the break. Whatever Tim Sheen said at halftime had little effect, as the Cowboys were kept in the corral. Hudson Smith making the Tigers camp happy, sealing a solid win. Balmain 18, this time North Queensland with no score.
And it's the Tigers who get across the line.
In North Queensland. 18 of the NRL has produced its share of upsets, with St George ending a 3-game losing streak against Norths. In other results, Canterbury upset Canberra, Adelaide down Souths, Brisbane beat Illawarra, Newcastle pipped West, while the Saints won by 8.
The high ball must have left Sears and Dallas a little dizzy. They got in each other's way, and Ainscough strolled through for the first try.
Ainscough puts it over the line.
With the Bears' defence in overdrive, Blacklock hit his accelerator, and the Dragons led 12-2 at half-time.
Blacklock's going to score for St George.
From there, the game was soon out of the Bears' reach, with the flying Blacklock finishing with a classy double.
Oh, Blacklock has come sailing through the air like a vulture.
The man they call Volcano was a mountain of aggression for Canberra today.
Oh, take that one, he says.
After trailing early, the Raiders met half-time with a 10-point cushion.
And isn't he happy?
But the Bulldogs weren't about to play dead. First Thompson crashed over, then from broken play, Silver finished off Britt's great burst to secure Canterbury's narrow win.
The Doggies.
And West gave the premiership leaders a fright at Campbelltown. Magpies scored twice before Newcastle also found an opening.
They've let one into Maggie's.
Some shots were high. Fritz on report for this.
Oh, there's trouble here for Fritz.
In a physical match, George Arliss popped a collarbone, and the Knights champagne after a battle right to the finish. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
An incident-packed game at Wynn Stadium featured a wild brawl, a send-off and a disallowed try that cost Illawarra dearly against Brisbane.
Illawarra was searching for its 4th straight win, but Brisbane coasted to an 8-0 lead.
Wendell Saylor has a 4-pointer.
The Steelers stirred into action, sweeping past the Broncos with some flash work.
McGregor! Away they go!
Rod Wishart went close to extending the lead before Andrew G ploughed over. 12 all when Wendell Saylor was sent off for this.
Number 5 Brisbane come running some distance and started throwing punches which connected.
Wendell, please leave the field.
Moments later, Gordon Tallis broke the deadlock. Adelaide has strung together 3 consecutive wins. The Rams led Souths 14-12 at half-time before Noel Goldthorpe engineered 2 of the next 4 tries to seal an easy win. Sydney City is still counting the cost of its shock 6-point loss to Penrith. Adrian Lamb lasted less than 3 minutes after being knocked out trying to tackle Matt Adamson.
You could just see he was gone.
Andrew Walker also went off injured after a harmless-looking fall. Walker, in fact, broke his leg. Then late in the game, teammate Nathan Wood suffered the same fate on a night the Roosters should have stayed indoors. After conceding 52 points last week, Balmain kept a clean sheet against North Queensland. The second of 4 tries, a matter of timing.
Comes off the crossbar. That's a try to Meads.
Michael Gillette's cutout pass found its mark. While the Tigers' defence was made to look better when the Cowboys got tangled.
Oh, no!
Balmain home with plenty to spare. Newcastle leads by 2, Canterbury now inside the top 10, and Souths last and alone. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Norths were back at Fair Park and boosted by the return of star back rower Adam Muir. A few minutes later, it was quite obvious that he'd spent a bit of time away from the game.
Oh dear, Adam Muir has faced from sideline to sideline and played the ball.
But as if to finish the opening script perfectly, guess who scored the first try?
Taylor, and then Florimo. Second man, it's opened up for Adam Muir to celebrate his return. Beautiful play by North Sydney.
Down 6-0 and minus half a dozen of their top players, the Storm rallied.
And a beautiful ball by Tawira Nikau. Hill breaks into open country. Martin's there to support him. Martin beats the second last line. He's got 5 metres to go. He's pulled down.
Brett Dallas had no one to blame for losing it.
He had to cover a lot of ground. Now he loses the ball.
And a couple of minutes later, the scores were even.
Really lifted. Swain, he's over the line. That's a try.
The Storm with the momentum, and they went to the lead.
Hill, and then across for Martin. The line is open, and in they go with Carlaw.
The Bears, trailing 10-6, 2 Jason Taylor penalty goals, saw the teams go to the break all locked up. Misfortune for the Bears early in the second stanza with Billy Moore injured.
There's quite a bit of interest and concern about Billy Moore.
Then a stroke of luck for the home side, an obvious forward pass let go by the ref.
That pass has gone forward, but Clark's let it go. Dallas is showing speed down to the 10-metre line.
Tawira Nikau tried to get his side going, but he was a little over-enthusiastic, first with Adam Muir, then Matt Sears.
There's still some spiteful things happening away from the football.
The Storm stayed within 8 points until the final 15 minutes of the match.
Puts it down. That's a try. Morrison has scored. Oh, beautiful, opportunist performance by Morrison.
From there, the game was won. North's running away with it. Petherbridge showing great speed.
Well, here's a kick from the scrum.
And look at the speed! The speed of Petherbridge leads the race, gets the bounce, puts the ball over the line. Good work, Scotty.
The final now coming from Jason Taylor, capping off an inspirational captain's game.
Supported by Aiken. Now Taylor. A captain's knock, well done.
They did go close again, the Bears.
And an intercept, and who's got it? Big Steve Trindle. Look at him, the big Clydesdale. He's being chased, and now they come along. Ruptures him away for Reba. Reba's got support. Matt Sears. No, I think into touch.
But it was all academic by then. North Sydney running away convincing winners in the end, 34 points to 10. Across the Tasman, the Tigers were met by a fairly aggressive welcoming committee at Ericsson Stadium. They may well have done their job too. Balmain's defence the first to crack.
Just have to watch Jones and Namu.
Great ball, Joe Wagner! Brilliantly worked, Ridge under the post.
Minutes later, Stacey Jones showed why he's one of the hottest properties in the game.
Jones allowed to dart back behind his own line. Jones with support coming to the in goal. Nevin to try the up and put it dead.
Trailing 8-0, it was the Tigers' captain that helped them get on the board.
Great ball up for Naval.
A Ridge penalty goal stretched the Warriors' lead to 4 before Milford found some open spaces.
And he's got plenty of support travelling with him. Withers back on the inside for Milford. Just swivels out of the tackle. Ridge won't get there.
Tutupu may be in a little trouble after this one.
Swinging arm got him just under the chin.
Stephen Kearney may also have something to answer.
Position danger. Always a danger when the players start to lift.
3 players on report after Pongia wet earlier, but it wasn't slowing the home side down. Tutupu evening up the score.
A decoy runner for Tutupu to reach out. Did it nicely.
10 minutes later, the Warriors were over again, taking the lead to 6.
Namu, quick hands. They've had numbers a couple of times. Can they get this one right? Ridge. Now they do. Nigel Bugano.
Tigers youngster James Gannon was yet another placed on report.
High shot coming in from James Gannon.
A timely field goal to Stacey Jones gave Auckland a 7-point buffer. And they needed it. Under 5 minutes left on the clock, and Langaloa was in open spaces.
Well, he's not offside. Grant's giving him an okay, and this is going to send us down to a photo finish. He's even looked around, thought he had a call.
He can't believe it.
He's under the posts.
But the Jones field goal meant they were still a point adrift. Auckland sneaking home 21 points to 20.
Diamond came in for Paul McGregor and made his presence felt early.
Simon into space through the gap, and the Illawarra Steelers have got first points.
Terry Hill then copped 10 in the sin bin, and the Steelers made him pay, up 12-4 at the break. But with so much at stake, Steve Menzies sparked the Sea Eagles' revival.
Inside, Menzies, try!
There was plenty of tension between the Bears and the Storm. North Sydney's premiership campaign back on track, eventually running out 34-10 winners. It was Melbourne's most comprehensive loss of the season.
A captain's knock, well done.
Meanwhile, Paul Sirenen showed Balmain's frustration. The Tigers' hopes for 1998 all but dashed. Leading 12-0, Balmain fell in a hole, going down 21-20 at Ericsson Stadium. Paul Crawley, 10 News.
Rugby Union leader Newcastle has opened up a 3-point buffer after today's hard-fought win over St George at Marathon Stadium. The 3 other matches played were all one-sided. Canberra 46, South Sydney 16. Brisbane 44, Gold Coast 10. Sydney City smashed West 62-4, while Newcastle survived a Saints revival for a 28-22 victory.
Before kick-off, all play acting pointed to the Knights slaying the Dragons. Referee Paul McBlain also in the wars, sporting a black right eye from a nightclub altercation. But even he was in better shape than St George. Nothing went right for Saints, and Andrew John's bomb blew up in their faces, bouncing perfectly for Matthew Gidley. Things went from bad to worse when Matt Rodwell was sin-binned. Newcastle ahead 28-6 soon after half-time.
Pinchinelli has claimed his second try.
Knight-turned Dragon Darren Tracy was also sin-binned, much to the delight of former teammates, but Anthony Mundine proved the main man in a St George revival.
Backs up on the inside and puts it over the line.
Tracy turned from sinner to saint, but the Dragons' comeback fell 6 points short. Sydney City queued for tries against a hapless Wests. Adrian Lamb bagging 3 as the Roosters ran in 11 to record their biggest win over the Magpies.
Is in for try number 3, thank you very much.
Kevin Walters celebrated his 200th game for Brisbane with a try against the Gold Coast.
Kevin Walters, he gets a try.
Scott Sattler was placed on report for this tackle on Michael Hancock as the Broncos cruised to victory. An enraged Steve Renouf came up swinging after being taken out off the ball. He lost the fight with the referee, but Renouf's team won by 34 points. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
A troubled week for South Sydney didn't get any better today. The Rabbitohs were well beaten as Canberra ran in 9 tries.
Trouble just won't leave Souths alone, and the Raiders' outside men caused their share today.
Get over the try line.
It hurt everywhere. 2 tries before the break put Canberra 12 in front.
He gets it down.
But the reborn Rabbitohs bounced back. Faith in their teammate was fairly rewarded, and the lead was cut to 2.
Rodwell reaches out.
From there, the challenge lifted Canberra. Souths had no counter.
It's Saturday night entertainment.
At a slippery Shark Park, Alexander made a successful comeback with Penrith revelling in the heavy going.
Short ball for Cross and he'll score.
Cronulla narrowed it to 8-6 when Graham skipped away from open arms, while Richardson's visibility had been cut to 0.
Oh dear.
But Penrith looked the masters of speculators. Went to half-time 8 in front. Like the rain, Cronulla didn't let up. Sharks fought back to 14 all, then missed with 2 attempts to break the deadlock.
It's a shocker.
Canterbury and Parramatta meant business from the outset. There were only 2 tries all night. The Bulldogs in the first half, then Parramatta in the second. The score stayed 6 all until the Eels' Jamie Owen registered his first point for the season.
I think he might have kicked it.
In Townsville, Adelaide was chasing its 4th win in a row, and North Queensland was desperate to keep its finals hopes alive.
Oh, great try!
The Cowboys got the crucial points, with prop Martin Locke acting like a back.
He's got the step going and he's over!
With 5 rounds remaining, Newcastle leads Brisbane and Parramatta. Illawarra completes the top 10. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Yet another day of drug problems for the NRL that the 2 clubs under the closest scrutiny would meet in the match of the round. For the Knights, a win would all but wrap up the minor premiership, while Melbourne was looking to end a recent run of outs. It was the Storm who crossed first, the Knights with an uncharacteristic defensive lapse.
Swings over!
Marcus Bai extending the lead when he dived over in the corner.
A beautiful pass, Ross for Bay, finds across.
Kamali's length of the field intercept gave the home side an unexpected 12-point advantage.
The little number 7 has run the length of the field.
Owen Craigie getting a much-needed score for Newcastle just before half-time.
The bounce is favourable for Newcastle.
The Knights charge back within 2 points, courtesy of a powerhouse try to Matthew Gidley.
Gidley's over!
But Melbourne stormed away late in the match. Marcus Bai over again. The big winger notching a trifecta, well and truly keeping his promise of a big performance for his countrymen in Papua New Guinea. Melbourne's chase for a top 4 spot still on track. Justin Higgs, Sky News.
Australia by Michael Buettner has highlighted North's convincing victory over Illawarra in Wollongong. Scoring their 4th away win of the season, the Bears revelled in the heavy conditions to win 32-6.
A pre-match downpour had players splashing and sliding before Illawarra's first foray deep into North territory saw Craig Simon spin over.
Yes, he can!
The Steelers' defence held until Jason Taylor's borderline pass to Adam Muir
It's forward.
Gave the Bears an 8-6 half-time lead. An inside ball from Muir allowed Michael Buettner to kick and dribble the Bears to 14-6.
It is a fair try.
After another shower, North put the game out of reach on the hour with 2 quick tries.
Buettner will do the right thing.
Buettner then strolled through the understrength Steelers for his hat-trick in the 32-6 win. Last night, more than 14,000 saw Melbourne take on premiers Newcastle on a night Papua New Guinea winger Marcus Bai will long remember. After Richard Swain punctured the Knights' defence in the opening 6 minutes, Bai squeezed through for the first of a hat-trick. Newcastle drew to within 6 when Owen Craigie collected an undifused bomb.
The bounce is favourable for Newcastle.
Before fog soon enveloped Olympic Park.
And this is coming in as though the building's on fire.
No flames, though Lazarus seemed to be smouldering, as Bai had the storm raging in the second half. The competition leader humbled as Melbourne scored its second win in 5 matches. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
In today's wanted halfback Ricky Stewart and rookie sensation Mark McClendon inspired Canberra to a 14-point win over Parramatta. In other games, St George 22 defeated Sydney City 12, Penrith 26 downed Canterbury 18, Adelaide 22 pipped Auckland 20, while the Raiders won 22-8.
Canberra crossed first, Ken Nagus crashing through a forest of Parramatta legs. A Dean Pay pass soon put the yield Stuart Kelly into open spaces.
He's going to go all the way. Kelly's over.
Les Vainicolo gave Paul Carriage a different view of proceedings, but the real eye-catcher was rookie replacement Mark McClendon.
The big man or the little man, call him what you like. He's a superman.
With Laurie Daly out for the rest of the season, McClendon's proving the perfect spare part for the Green Machine. Canberra scoring 22 points to kill off Parramatta before half-time. In a quagmire at Cogra, Sydney City and St George produced dry weather football. Nathan Blacklock mopping up for Saints' first points. City's Brad Fittler too slick in the mud.
Got away from the stable and tackled again in the first line. And Fittler says yes.
In the second half, Blacklock shadowed Matthew Rodwell and managed to haul Saints within 2 points of the Roosters. Sydney City soon lost Brian Fletcher to the sin bin, the wet weather testing both teams' tempers.
Now there's a stinking behind the play.
On 3 occasions, desperate dives and defence denied the Dragons, but there was no stopping Anthony Mundine.
He got to Brooker, he scored!
Against Canterbury, Penrith's Greg Alexander starred in his 250th first-grade game.
Hicks, still with a chance. Back in the field of play.
The Panthers led 16-0 and, despite a Canterbury comeback, held on to win by 8 points. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
Adelaide has continued its late season burst. They defeated Auckland to make it 4 wins in the last 5 games.
Auckland's top 10 hopes hinged on victory over Adelaide. The Rams crossed twice to lead 14-0.
Graham Appo.
Shane Endicott had a try disallowed
Pushed into touch.
before Nigel Wagner raced away to score an intercept try.
They won't get him in.
A questionable pass saw Joe Wagner draw the Warriors to within 2 points before Dion Bird swooped in on his own kick to clinch a Rams result. Last night, Michael DeVere crossed early for Brisbane, suggesting a Bronco stampede over Balmain. Shannon Nevin's 3 penalty goals wiped the deficit. Then Wendell Saylor saluted before scoring to put Brisbane ahead.
The Broncos are in.
Michael Withers had a try disallowed.
No try.
Before he pickpocketed John Plath to make it 10-all.
Intercepted by Withers. Against the run of play, the Tigers are in.
The conversion missed. The Tigers went within a whisker of snatching victory.
Off the uprights.
A must-win game for Manly, trying to stay in touch with the top 10. The Sea Eagles trampled over the Gold Coast with 6 tries in winning 30-6. Trading blows in Townsville as Souths headed towards its first victory under coach Craig Coleman.
He'll score!
The Rabbitohs led by 10 points before North Queensland fought back to 16-all.
Try!
Sean Garlick then burrowed over for the Rabbitohs' triumph.
He's awarded the try!
Some paper-thin West defence helped Cronulla kickstart a dazzling display. Matt Rogers starred with 7 goals and a feature role in Nick Zisti's try as the Sharks mauled the Magpies 38-8. Newcastle's lead cut back to 2. Balmain now in the top 10. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Minus their inspirational captain Paul Kelly, Sydney had his first ever victory at the Gabba, beating Brisbane by 60 points. In other games, Essendon knocked over St Kilda, Richmond by 9 against Geelong, Port Adelaide defeated Hawthorn, while the Swans made it 3 wins in a row. As expected, Lockett drew plenty of attention, but his massive frame was always a handful. Yet it was the Lions who made the most of their 4 scoring opportunities in the first quarter.
It's good.
By contrast, the Swans were finding it difficult to convert their 12s, but by the first break, they had a 13-point lead.
Lockett will get his 3rd.
In the second quarter, it was a different story. Schwartz playing his 200th game and Paul Roos his 350th put it together for Valandia.
And goals on the run.
The Lions kept in touch, he likes it, but with just minutes to the big break, the Swans built up a 34-point spread.
Yes, he has.
The margin could easily have been greater, and for a time in the final quarter, the Lions had a sniff of a revival. But 3 Swans goals in as many minutes, including one by Roos, snuffed out faint hope. Lockett finished with 7 goals. And it's a goal. Used a stirring display to beat New Zealand in Christchurch. The Wallabies won 27-23, scoring 4 tries to 2, condemning the Kiwis to their 3rd straight defeat.
Aiming to end a 6-match losing streak stretching 40 years on this ground, Australia relished the chance to stamp on New Zealand's flattened pride. Tom Bowman's blindside bustle, the ideal start.
What a try!
The All Blacks tried unusual variations, including an Indian file backline setup, and winger Jonah Lomu feeding the scrum.
Watch him.
Australia defended stoutly, then applied the blowtorch just before half-time. Cool as you like, Steve Larkham's inside ball to Matthew Burke.
Try!
The Wallabies then stunned the locals, going to 17-3 when makeshift winger Little proved too much.
Under the posts! The All Black backline was totally bamboozled.
The 2-1 on favourite was reeling. Joe Roth smothered Jeff Wilson, and though Mertens trimmed Australia's lead to 11, the Wallabies could arrange airline bookings for the Cup when Gregan and Little combined for Larkham.
There it is, Larkham!
Christian Cullen and Lomu crashed over to soften the blow, ending at 27-23. Too late to dislodge the Cup from Australian hands.
After being belted in every game in the last 2 years and to come back and win 2 in a row, I can't describe it, but it's great. We'll be swimming in the river tonight, I can tell you that.
Charles Christian, National 9 News.
In club rugby, Gordon outscored Northern Suburbs. Brisbane had a little trouble taming Adelaide. The Broncos scored 8 tries to 2, winning 46 points to 12.
The friendship between opposing coaches certainly didn't extend to the field. Brisbane was in a mean mood, and Adelaide was out of its depth. 2 tries to Darren Smith helped establish a 28-0 lead at the break, and Brisbane didn't ease up. Lockyer put in another class performance. First he produced a length of the field try, then just a few minutes later, another big run to save one.
Too much pace for Webke. Straight through the centre he goes. Darren Lockyer faces and gets it.
Last night, St George and Cronulla went back to the 60s, playing in the same strip they wore when they first met 30 years ago.
Broncos come down with a try.
Brunker's good work lifted the wrong team, as the Sharks' Nathan Long celebrated his first try for the season. Then Nick Graham lived up to his big raps.
They keep it going. Here's Graham. Graham, he'll get there.
In what may have been the last local derby between these clubs, Cronulla was an impressive winner. It finished 6 tries to 2 as the Sharks looked anything but neighbourly.
It was like a javelin throw, that.
Kevin Iroh's return from injury proved a real pain for the Cowboys. As North Queensland and the Warriors traded points, Iroh was unstoppable in both halves.
Kevin Iroh, it is his night tonight.
Barganar scored a hat-trick in the 16-point win, but Iroh took all the points. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
Another big haul from Tony Lockett, kicking 9 goals for Sydney against Geelong at Cardinia Park. In other games, North Melbourne crunched Port Adelaide, Melbourne thrashed Brisbane, Western Bulldogs beat Collingwood, while the Swans won by 34 points.
Stopping Tony Lockett was always going to be Geelong's main concern, but the Swans aren't a one-man team.
Has it got the carry? It has.
Sydney has plenty of support for its spearhead, and it was all the visitors in the opening term.
A terrific kick by Nix.
They continued to dominate in the second, Lockett virtually unbeatable in the air and on the ground.
He recovers, shoots for goal.
The monotony proved agonising for Cats fans. Lockett moving ahead of Jason Dunstall and into second place on the all-time goal kickers list. The Swans going to the main break, 76 points in front.
And Plunkers kicked 8 before half-time.
Geelong turned its fortunes around in the third, moved off Lockett. McKinnon managed to kick a goal himself as his side booted 6 to Sydney's 1.
The Cats are coming back.
Lockett finished the day with 9 as Sydney steadied, but Geelong kept clawing away until the end.
Go in and kick a goal, Buddha. And he does!
Despite dropping their intensity in the second half, victory keeps Sydney in the top 4 and hanging on to their hopes of a home final. Corey Wingard, National 9 News.
This afternoon against Balmain to make it 6 wins from 7 in the run-up to the finals. Meanwhile, Melbourne is the new joint competition leader, beating Sydney City. Canberra gave Penrith a hiding. Canterbury smashed West, while the Sea Eagles held on for a brave 2-point win.
Before kick-off, Balmain sat 1 point above Manly on the competition ladder, but Alf Duncan's length of the field run suddenly shortened odds on the Sea Eagles making the top 10. Teammates made it a dream first half for Duncan. Terry Hill setting up try number 2. Jim Sidaris made all the early running for Duncan's third. The winger's hat-trick scored within half an hour. Manly ahead 16-0 at the break. But before Manly could book a finals berth, Balmain replied with 3 tries, tying it up at 16-all. Former Manly fullback Shannon Nevin kicked the conversion, giving the Tigers a 2-point lead. But John Hopewadi kept Manly's finals cause alive.
Hopewadi is away, he's over!
Melbourne halves Scott Hill and Brett Camorley made life miserable for Sydney City.
They'll get another one, the Storm!
Although never in front, the Roosters reduced the margin to 6 points early in the second half, but the Storm's 6-try effort makes Melbourne equal top of the table.
Hill, he slips a beauty!
If Canterbury and Wests are planning a joint venture next season, the Bulldogs showed no sympathy for their prospective partners. Captain Darren Britt among the points. Canterbury still in finals contention, the 42-point loss making Wests prime candidates for the wooden spoon. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
At Bruce Stadium, defence wasn't a priority. Canberra and Penrith scored 74 points between them.
After just 15 minutes, the Raiders had raced to an 18-0 lead. Penrith simply struck a team that did nothing wrong, while the Panthers struggled to get it right.
Brilliant stuff!
In the end, it became embarrassing. Canberra led 48-4 before its defence fell off, allowing Penrith to narrow the score.
Sent Dominic for the line, he's in!
Last night, Illawarra put everything on the line against Newcastle, and the Steelers began brilliantly.
Beautifully taken by Barrett!
Another Barrett kick led to Illawarra's second try, and the collision between Wishart and Hughes shook the stadium.
Well, they're both snoring on the way to the floor.
While Barrett starred for the backs, Callaway led from the front, and by half-time, Illawarra was 12 in front. A frantic first half was followed by a gripping second. 3 tries to Newcastle had the Knights in front for the first time, but the game was far from over.
He didn't handle it!
The lead didn't stop changing, and with 40 seconds remaining, Newcastle was up by 4. It looked over until Barrett pierced through. 26-all, full-time sounded, and the kick to come.
He kicks it, and Illawarra win!
Parramatta's Jim Dimmick has been cleared of serious injury after being taken off in a neck brace in the match against Souths. The Eels won 16-8, and although the conversion didn't matter, Tchaikovsky got no help from the sideline.
He's covered some.
At Carrara, the Chargers' Graham Mackay didn't like the idea of 10 minutes in the sin bin. For the first time this year, North's made it 3 wins in a row. After round 21, there's another jam at the top of the table, with the minor premiership still on offer. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
14 points to nil, and you give yourself absolutely no chance whatsoever, do you?
No, it's disappointing, isn't it? I mean, they've just gone from bad to worse, the Magpies, haven't they? Unfortunately, they're down on their confidence, and it didn't really help playing at Belmore on the weekend.
Down on their confidence block, but it's just simple tackles and offloads. This Bulldog side, look at those offloads. You've just got to stop the football. If you offload, there's Darren Britt. Look, he's never run that far in his life.
He's going to run down the gong.
20 metres to score that. He's done a pretty good job as taken over as captain for the Canterbury Bulldogs as Darren Britt, but once again, they move the ball well.
Speaking of good job,
Gavin Lester.
Stephen Folkes has done a great job, hasn't he, in his first year of coach? You know, he's got them in a position to compete for the finals. Then, you know, I give the Bulldogs some sort of hope.
Well, Brian, they gave you a bit of a touch-up out there at Belmore.
Yeah, I mean, they're a tough side. The forward pack, once again, that day...
Dominated the Roosters forward pack.
I mean, they did it again on the weekend.
Well, how many points are they on? Canterbury.
Canterbury?
They're not far away.
They're on 20 points, but they play St George, Melbourne and the Steelers on the way home.
Won't that game on St George next weekend be tough?
Yeah, a beauty. And just getting over there in the corner is Travis Baker, who has...
Which made it 36-4.
Yeah, it's just soft tries, aren't they, Block?
That's that young Thompson, isn't it?
As you said before, mate, obviously their confidence is an all-time low. There's a nice inside pass, just a set play right through the middle of the ruck, and that's a try.
Yeah, Corey Hughes playing in the number 7 jumper for Canterbury. They've had some trouble finding the try line, the Bulldogs, and that's another try.
Well, the mail we're hearing, Ricky Stewart's going to wear the blue and white next year. He'd be a welcome addition to their side because they're looking for a playmaker, aren't they?
Hughes for Silver and Matt Ryan for Leicester.
What happens to Polomount? Move the hooker, does he, or do you have anything to say?
He could play there, couldn't he, Block, really?
He's a strong little fella.
He's a tough, tenacious competitor, is Craig Polomount.
Might play him at lock.
Well, there's another soft try.
Travis Norton's a good player.
Asiri Lang there, the former winger turned back rower, getting across the try line. Just the 2 tries, though, for the Magpies. 9 tries for Canterbury, who have had trouble scoring tries so far this season. So I guess, Mario, that's a pretty good hit out as we have a look at the ladder, and Canterbury at that stage are on.
Melbourne have already secured a place in the finals, of course, but with the minor premiership on offer, a win against the Sharks tonight would be vital for the Storm to finish on top of the ladder.
Cronulla were out to strengthen their grip on a top 10 spot, but an embarrassing start left them empty-handed.
It's Adam Dykes. Dykes is going to regather. Oh! Dykes has had the chance of his life.
Not a memorable beginning, but memories were sparked. A former Shark rubbed salt into Cronulla's wound, setting up the Storm's first point.
And Nick Howe slides the ball to Marcus Bai, and Marcus Bai is in again.
Cronulla was stumbling, literally, but soon regathered composure. Some solid teamwork gave them the lead.
Healy's in space, Howland is with him, he'll score!
But John Lang's hopes were short-lived. The home side kept things on a knife edge, 10-all at half-time.
Got it away, Danny Williams will score! Yes, Williams is over!
Both teams went in fists first after the break. Melbourne tested Cronulla's big men, till another mistake from the Sharks broke the deadlock.
Yes, it's Bell, but well, I don't know. I think he might have made it.
Desperation showed again.
There's still punches being thrown in the corner.
But hard hits were far more effective for the Storm. Their powerful performance rewarded Danny Williams in for his second try of the match. Melbourne right on track for a top 2 finish.
So yet another terrific display from the Storm. Gutsy second half effort sealed the result for them. Final score 20-10, but the Sharks weren't disgraced either. With only 2 rounds remaining, Manly has kept its semi-final hopes alive with a hard-fought win over Adelaide. The Sea Eagles flew out of the blocks, racing to a 14-0 lead. Second rower Stephen Menzies was at his brilliant best. Adelaide rose to the challenge, though. Captain Kerrod Walters made it 14-10 just before half-time.
Kerrod Walters split a try line, and they get a try. Seconds to go in Lions.
Manly struggled early in the second half as the Rams' intensity lifted, but the visitors eventually found some top gear. Menzies grabbed a hat-trick.
And he'll pick up his hat-trick for tonight, Steve Menzies.
Sea Eagles take home the 2 valuable competition points with a 32-10 win.
Canterbury put itself into the top 10 this afternoon with an important win over St George. In other games, Sydney City were back to their best against Illawarra. Newcastle defeated Gold Coast. South Sydney had a 2-point win over Auckland, while the Bulldogs were never headed against Saints at Cogra Oval.
The Bulldogs would give the shirt off their backs for a top 10 spot, and needing a win to make the finals, Canterbury soon caught Saints with their pants down.
They're over to score!
While Canterbury's Craig Polomount was sin bin, Nathan Blacklock scored, but when the Dogs were back to full strength, there was no stopping Willie Tallaght.
That is a magnificent try!
18-4. It could have been more, but for Daniel Wagon's desperation.
No, he didn't get it down!
Saints staged their now customary second half revival, but the 12-point win puts Canterbury in the top 10 on percentages. As the Dogs snuck in, Illawarra dropped out of the top 10, mainly because the Steelers slipped off Sydney City's Brad Fittler. Matt Singh also fooling the defence.
Matt Singh, beautiful dummy. Here we go again. And it goes to Miles. Miles for the corner.
Illawarra's Sammy Shimon is on report for a high tackle, but it was Fittler they failed to put down. This is 15th try for the season.
They're not going to stop Freddie. He's got a double.
Out for 2 months through injury, Paul Harrigan was the surprise leader of Newcastle against Gold Coast, although the 2-month layoff left the Chief understandably rusty.
Was a touch high from Paul Harrigan.
The Knights struggled against the Chargers, but did enough to win by 7 points.
Craigie reaches out.
Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
In a game that had little bearing on the final, South Sydney is off the bottom of the league ladder after beating Auckland.
South started the season with a surprise win over the Warriors in Auckland. Today the venue changed, but not the result.
Picked up by Rodwell.
Leading 12-4, it did look promising for the Warriors, but the Rabbitohs weren't cooked yet. Right on half-time, O'Neill levelled the scores. After the break, a touch of garlic completed South's day.
That was just too simple.
In only their 5th win of the year, the Rabbitohs gave fans a mighty lift.
South Sydney were terrific.
Last night, Penrith and Parramatta wrestled to the finish.
Big Mark Tukey takes them on.
But the match was only 6 minutes old when the Panthers lost Adamson for a high tackle.
He's been sent from the field.
His captain erupted, and the ref's action irked commentators.
Say that was not a send-off offence.
Allowed to run, Alexander helped keep Penrith in touch. And it wasn't until the final 10 that Parramatta's extra man made the difference.
There's an overlap. Carriage is in.
In Townsville, Brisbane's Shane Webke tried the bowling ball approach.
He goes underneath them and gets back to his feet.
Broncos hit early when Renouf combined with Hancock for 2 tries in 5 minutes.
Floating pass, beautiful pass.
Brisbane won by 12 in a game that threatened plenty.
Ian Roberts absolutely ropeable. He wanted to tear Wendell Sailor apart.
And West can't wait for the season to finish, as Canberra made the most of the worst defence in the competition, winning 22-0. The table sees Canterbury in the top 10 ahead of Manly on averages, while the minor premiership beckons. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
A vital win for Sydney in the AFL, beating the West Coast in a thriller at the SCG. In other games, Richmond down Collingwood, Adelaide thrashed Port Adelaide, Essendon beat Fremantle, while the Swans won by a goal.
2 of the competition heavyweights positioning for a home final. West Coast had won 9 of its last 11 matches. Sydney the past 4.
Cook has a snap, 35 out.
The Swans handcuffed the Eagles in the first quarter, kicking 5 against the Breeze.
What a quarter.
Leo Barry's goal pushed Sydney ahead 31-9.
Good kick.
Michael O'Loughlin and Barry hoisted their colours.
Frequent flyer points there for Barry.
And while sliding defence helped Nix turn 6 points into just 1, West Coast chiselled away to be within 14 at the long break.
This would be terrific for the West Coast.
Goals by Chris Lewis and Jason Ball then trimmed it to just 2.
Not bad.
Lockett and Saddington combined well for Sydney.
And kicks it.
But West Coast stayed in the frame.
Coming back, he's got it.
Jason Mooney's one-handed effort sent the Swans to 59-51. But in the final term, West Coast clawed ahead.
Goes for goal and stopped it. A beauty.
There were chances for Sydney to break a tight game. Before O'Loughlin's hook, the right line to sink the West Coast by 6. Charles Christian, National 9 News.
Next season, Ricky Stewart ran out for his last appearance at Bruce Stadium. His teammates sensing the importance of the occasion.
Beautiful ball, Croker for Kennedy. Kennedy with Blacklock to beat. Pearson comes up and Pearson goes on to put the ball down.
On this, his 200th game for the Raiders, Stewart marked the milestone with a trademark kick.
Very important, that's a try.
Missing 3 key players and struggling to stay in contention, St George hit back through Tangata.
Gets it away, they're over the line.
Canberra tried to milk a penalty, but the ref wasn't fooled, allowing the Saints to close the gap to 4 points. But just before half-time, McClendon fooled the Saints' defence to put McNamara across for an 8-point lead. The Saints began the second term in the best way possible.
He'll score, Rodwell.
A Stewart kick allowed Vanicolo to cross, and although he looked offside, the video ref appeared confused before finally allowing the try. If that wasn't disappointing enough for St George, they then had to face Vanicolo again, charging through flimsy defence.
And Murphy can't get him, Tracy can't get him, nobody can get him!
The Saints scored another 2 tries to close the gap, but it was all too late, Canberra running out 4-point winners. Penrith proved too strong for South Sydney. The Panthers led by just 2 points at the break, but dominated in the second half, scoring 7 tries to 4.
The Rams had the big-name Bears on the rack early, denied only by desperate defence. Then veteran Gary Larson set the North Sydney offence in motion.
Away to Willie Lation.
And Adelaide's defence cracked again shortly after when Muir muscled over.
He'll try and reach out and score.
When Taylor sent the big forward over for his second, the Bears seemed set to run away with the match.
Straight through them, a great pass from the halfback.
And that they did, scoring 6 tries in total to record their biggest win of the season.
But Matty Sears will pick up a complimentary 4 points.
Nick Edwards, Sky News.
Playing at home, Robbie Kearns tripping on the welcome mat.
Off to Kearns. Kearns, Silver to beat. He's dropped it over the down line. So a try goes begging.
No apologies from Canterbury's Stephen Price for arriving late.
He's got held well after that.
Was he taken out after the kick?
Well, he angled himself across field.
Brothers-in-law and rival coaches Steve Folkes and Chris Anderson could have discussed old times on Belmore's Family Hill, so slow was the scoring rate early. The boot of Halligan finally jolting the scoreboard attendant. The Bulldogs completing a sloppy first half, their snouts in front 2-0 at the break. The rain got heavier in the second half, one player getting changed for a swim. It seemed whoever could hang on to the ball would come up with the points. Melbourne's Scott Hill with safety first football. His combination with Robbie Ross not so safe.
Listen, the guy called straight over. That's the penalty. We're going to have a look at it and put it on report. Right?
Craig Polamatta with a winning chip, the US PGA leaders would have been flat out matching.
He slides across, brilliant try.
With an 8-0 lead on a lake, most people thought the Dogs were home. Most except the storming Tawera Nick Howe.
He's got it down, it's a try.
The closing minutes a dour struggle. Reliable Rod Silver making it official. Canterbury with 3 wins in a row and a top chance for the playoffs, defeating Melbourne 8 points to 4. At Shark Park, Cronulla hosted Illawarra, a side they'd only beaten once in 10 seasons. The Steelers eager to continue the hoodoo.
They'll get try number 1.
By the 12th minute, it was a one-way red and white motorcade. Illawarra 18-0 and cruising.
Try number 2.
Matt Rogers stopping the Sharks from sliding further into the Botany Bay swamp. Trent Barrett's form as hot as a blast furnace. His effort giving Illawarra a 26-6 lead at half-time.
What about that? Trent Barrett.
The Steelers scored again after the break, but the Sharks went on a frenzy. 2 tries in 4 minutes and an outside chance of a miracle.
Peachy, Richardson. Peachy picks up Richardson. Richardson scores.
But the jaws of life were just out of reach for Cronulla, as the finals may now be. Illawarra holding on to upset the Sharks 30 points to 22.
Quagmire football has seen Manly move into the top 10 and Cronulla slip out with a round remaining before the finals. In today's games, Brisbane defeated Auckland, Sydney City too good for Gold Coast, Parramatta thumped West, Manly overcame North Queensland, while Newcastle spoilt Paul Sirenen's farewell at Leichhardt Oval.
The washing bill will be enormous. Newcastle's Brett Grogan proved a juggling mudlark at Leichhardt.
The ball, got it in for Moody. Moody's over the line for Newcastle.
The slide got worse for the Tigers, up 16-0 after 25 minutes. The Knights got another kick out of Pinchinelli's charge. Milford showed fingertip control to narrow the lead, but in heavy slop.
Whether O'Doherty's injured or whether he can't see.
Newcastle ruined a veteran's record day.
Oh, Sirenen's let one go.
Sirenen wasn't the only one playing his last home game. At Brookvale, Cliff Lyons was also on the way out, but North Queensland hadn't planned to come to his party.
One-on-one tackle. They can't make it. Henne.
But with their finals hopes also on the line, Manly had hit the front by half-time.
Inside ball and Albert Torrens.
Scoring a hat-trick, Henne proved a real handful. But like they did in the first 40, Manly kicked back in brilliant fashion.
What about Menzies? Well...
And the Roosters' Ivan Cleary was in a hungry mood against the Gold Coast, scoring 22 points in the 34-10 win. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
At Parramatta Stadium, the Eels were always in charge, racking up a half-century of points as West crashed to its 9th straight loss.
Out for 10 weeks through injury, Aaron Raper's comeback for Parramatta created nightmares for Wests around the rucks.
That's an excellent try.
Jason Smith's switch from lock to 5/8 continues to pay off. His partnership with John Simons producing plenty of points against the hapless Magpies. The Eels ran in 8 tries to rack up a half-century, their biggest winning margin against Wests. The Wet and a Warriors outfit that wouldn't lie down forced Brisbane's Alan Langer to test the referee's temper.
Okay, just listen to the touchdown report. That's it, Alf.
In the second half, Langer spoke through deeds, the Broncos doing enough to remain joint competition leaders.
Try time!
No prizes for guessing what type of night it was for Canterbury's clash with Melbourne. Rain in a hand from Rod Silver saw a try slip through Robbie Kearns' fingers. Stephen Price didn't miss Brett Camorley, the Storm's chief playmaker suffering concussion. Darryl Halligan kicked the only points of the first half. Robbie Ross tried to wipe out Barry Ward. Before Craig Pollamouta caught the perfect wave.
He slides across, brilliant try!
Tawera Nikau got Melbourne within reach, but the 4-point win keeps Canterbury's finals campaign above water. Illawarra also remain in the hunt after defeating Cronulla. Despite the wet, the Steelers threw the ball about. Trent Barrett toying with the Sharks' defence.
Trent Barrett!
Manly is in the top 10 for the first time this season, but with 1 round remaining, Cronulla and Illawarra can still make the playoffs. Andrew McKinlay, National 9 News.
The end of today's competition matches before its place in the final 10 is confirmed. But its grand final aspirations have been boosted by a big win over Canberra. The Raiders stayed in contention throughout the encounter at Olympic Park, but the Storm held on to win.
A moment's silence for the 2 murdered Victorian policemen began the evening, on which both sides were looking to improve their semi-finals draw. Melbourne enjoyed better field position early, but McClendon created first points against the run of play, offloading for Pearson. The Storm's outside backs earned the reply, a great short ball from Martin to finish. A mistake from the restart gave Melbourne another chance straight away, Hill making sure they didn't waste it. Melbourne up by 4 at the break. Canberra had the breeze in the second term, but the Storm was blowing hard. Camorley zigging while the defence zagged and finding himself under the post. The Raiders needed to lift and did, Hetherington muscling his way over.
He'll make it, yes!
The raids kept coming, Geyer excelling in the unfamiliar role of fullback. Geyer again featuring to snuff out the Raiders' last real chance.
And a beautiful tackle by Geyer!
Melbourne earning a home semi-final and serving notice there'll be a real force in the weeks to come.
And finish never in doubt.
Got a hat-trick, remarkable!
Uncharacteristic, Canterbury defence opened the line for an eager Illawarra. In another season-deciding game, the Steelers exploited a soft centre.
Pathetic defence by Canterbury.
Gamble by Leicester paid off for the Bulldogs just before half-time. Then after the break, Silver looked certain of scoring before the hand of Wilson.
Oh, they came from behind and punched it out.
They gave it everything. And with 6 minutes remaining, it was 24-all. A draw was all Canterbury needed. After taking play well into Illawarra territory, Pollamouta also broke the deadlock.
There's the one-pointer! It's there!
Already assured a spot in the playoffs, Parramatta and St George revisited an old rivalry. The tries were few but all quality, with both sides grabbing an even share of confidence for next week. And as expected, the Broncos finished on top of the table, but Souths worried the premiership favourites all day. In the end, the difference was 3 tries to 2. Clinton Fletcher, National 9 News.
In a fitting farewell to North Sydney Oval and favourite son Greg Florimo, the Bears thrashed North Queensland 62-0.
After 282 games, Greg Florimo took his cue on his last home appearance. Norths using the match to fine-tune for the finals.
Look at Dallas come. 300 miles an hour!
As Jason Taylor nursed a bloodied nose, North Queensland couldn't plug the gaps, and Scott Pethiebridge helped Florimo over to make it 30-0 before half-time.
And they get another one!
Michael Butner clocked up his 20th try as Norths cantered home 62-0, the perfect send-off to go with the flow.
Conclusion to his career, Greg Florimo won.
Penrith ended the season on a high. winning 36-20 to condemn West to the wooden spoon. Last night, Cronulla scooted to a 14-0 lead against the Gold Coast, but the Chargers closed their season with some dignity. 2 late tries by David Miles kept the Sharks sweating on a 20-18 lead for the last 8 minutes. A record crowd for Balmain Sydney City fixtures, many there to farewell Paul Sirenen. Brad Fittler was immaculate in the Leichhardt slush. The Roosters ran riot, scoring 7 tries.
Here comes Elsgood. Elsgood flying through.
On a night Balmain sank without trace, Sirenen had his shot at goal before taking his walk. A 246-game Tigers career ending in mud, sweat and tears. Brisbane takes the minor premiership. Half the teams can think about their future. The top 10 finals start with Canberra hosting Manly on Friday night. On Saturday, St George and Canterbury at a venue to be decided. Parramatta hosts Norths, and on Sunday, Melbourne